Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Welcome to a random hotel room. I am currently out of town. I'm in California for a wedding, and I'm not missing this mission to the best of my abilities. As long as I'm not on a flight, which I will be on, Wednesday. Really hope it doesn't happen that night, but fingers crossed. We see a incredible launch tonight. So tonight we're hoping to see a really, really historic mission. Honestly, I'm probably just going to skip the pre-launch preview because we're in the middle of hearing a lot about weather right now. I don't want to do a lot of talking over this mission, but just a quick little rundown. This is the first time that humans will be flying the highest they'll fly since the Gemini program in Earth orbit. Of course, the Apollo program went higher, but technically not orbiting Earth-Moon system. Highest it's flown since Gemini program. Higher than those missions, actually, flying through good portions of the radiation belts, of the Van Allen belts. And the other part of it that's exciting is, of course, it's the first commercial EVA, the first time SpaceX is doing EVA with brand new suits. It's going to be awesome. So, you know what? Let's listen in, because I'm trying to listen into what they're saying so that we're not super behind, and then I'll get to you guys' questions as soon as we can. But one other important thing to remember is that this is a live stream doing a fundraiser to help with the cause that the Polaris program is all a part of, which is, of course, raising funds for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So if you guys donate here on YouTube, it will be going straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. As, like I said, that's part of the mission of this program. Let's see, that didn't work. What did I do? Sorry, I'm running everything on my laptop. It looks like I might have to do it like this, and I can't even, okay, that works, but not, dang it. I can't go to that other thing. But let's listen in here, because they are talking a lot about everything. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Let's listen in for a second.
And just a quick note, launch director telling the team to proceed with the go, no go poll. Car's going to talk to crew now.
Dragon SpaceX for weather update.
Go SpaceX.
Dragon, we're still watching weather. It seems that the T01 opportunity is going to have the best chance of getting us to a launch today. So we're going to be pressing into the propellant load go, no go poll.
And copy that, SpaceX. And just for good readback, we are presently no-go for weather, but we are stepping into the prop load poll.
We're going to get confirmation on that readback.
And stand by, Dragon. We're just confirming.
And the wait continues real quick. Weather has been a major constraint now for 2 weeks since they've been trying to launch this mission. This mission is very interesting because it's not docking to the International Space Station. It's free flying for about 5 days. So not only does the launch weather have to be okay, but also the landing conditions 5 days from now off the coast of Florida, either in the Gulf Coast or Atlantic Coast, are also have to be good enough weather and sea
We're
states.
coming up on T-minus 46 minutes. They've made a determination to continue on, betting that the weather will be go in 46 minutes from now. We heard Core bring it up with the crew briefly. We're waiting now for the directions from the launch director to the launch team for the readiness for propellant load and launch poll. Currently, they are continuing to talk with the launch weather officer, but it looks like if you look at the upcoming T0 or the next one in about 100 minutes, it's about an equal opportunity. So we're going to move into propellant load, it appears. Now, right now, the launch director should be polling
And
electronically
SpaceX for awareness. We got one more radar scan. We're evaluating this radar scan.
7
We'll
members.
get back here.
Copy that, SpaceX. We're standing by.
Yeah, there's some discussion on the WeatherNet about a cell to the northwest and whether or not it's exceeding constraints. Electronic poll has been completed. If we do continue with the countdown.
Dragon SpaceX, we're getting meteorological input that we should waive this attempt given the last radar scan. So we're going to pause the clock here and move to our second T0.
Second T0.
Copy that, SpaceX, and we are standing by for the second T0.
Okay.
Okay, we're T-minus 44 minutes and 30 seconds, and we have paused the clock for the moment.
The
We got a last-minute update. One cell right at around the 10 nautical mile border had popped up on the radar returns. We have to get all the weather clear within 10 nautical miles of the launch pad in order to be able to launch Falcon 9 with the crew on the Dragon.
And launch control.
The weather
LD
was
on countdown
iffy.
one,
If it would
please
clear
set the
in
T
time
clock
for
to
the original T0.
092349 UTC.
0923.
And LD, that's 09:23:49 UTC.
That is correct.
So that's going to be 223 West
Launch
Coast time.
director confirming the planned new T0, 09:23:49, I believe, universal time. That would be at 5:23 a.m. on pad 39A.
And the clock is counting to 09:23:49 UTC.
As you can see on the webcast screen now.
Dragon SpaceX launch T time has been moved to 092349 Zulu. Stand by for seat rotation, after which you will remain in the capsule with the side hatch closed. Please confirm when you are ready for seat rotation.
Copy that, SpaceX. New T0 092349, and we'll get back to you on that seat rotation.
We just heard the core.
SpaceX Dragon, we're ready for seat rotation.
SpaceX copies. We will report when initiating.
Okay, it sounds like we are now in the middle of seat rotation. With the delay, you see on the screen, we're T-minus 2 hours, 27 minutes. There's a view inside the capsule. They're working on their tablets, getting their updated clock. Okay. Updating for those who are watching right now. We got down
Dragon
to
SpaceX
just
is initiating seat rotation.
a lot going on here. Seat rotation being initiated. We ought to see that on our screen coming up. And seat movement begins. That'll make it a little easier on the crew as we wait for the launch window opportunity number 2 to arrive. They'll be back into a more regular seated posture, and then we'll get back through seat rotation a little bit later on. But right now, inside 2.5 hours now to the planned T0. As we mentioned, as we started the webcast, we had 3 opportunities. We've had to
Dragon
wait.
seats are in the upright position.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same.
We had to wave off the first opportunity just as we got inside T minus 45 minutes. The weather forecast was iffy at best, and we have elected to go for the second of the 3 T0 opportunities. Next launch opportunity at 9:23:49 Universal Time. We'll have a third opportunity if need be at 11 hours 50 minutes Universal Time. We don't know what the weather forecast is. It's fairly dynamic as a tropical boundary layer has come ashore in Florida.
All right, so there you guys have it. We are, I'm just making sure that I was staying in the loop as much as humanly possible. But yeah, basically, like I was saying, this mission is very particular with weather, not only on launch, but also on the re-entry of not the booster, but the actual capsule, because the mission will return in about 5 days. But the weather constraint currently is actually for launch, which is a little bit more unusual because these days, I feel like Falcon 9 launches all the time. It's almost unusual for it to scrub, but yeah, right now it's the cumulus cloud rule that you cannot have lightning strikes and cumulus clouds within 10 miles of the launch pad, so 16 kilometers. And so basically, they realized like that's not going to get better, and so therefore they just pushed it to the next window in this full 3-hour window. So, what is it, like a 6-hour window? I forget already. But they have 3 opportunities today. This is the second one. I guess I'm staying up for 2.5 more hours. As long as you guys keep sending money to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, I will be up all night with you guys and cheering on this mission. But man, also another friendly reminder real quick for everyone that's listening. If you see another SpaceX feed on YouTube, it is not SpaceX. SpaceX does not stream to YouTube, so be sure and report those, because especially this mission in particular is trying to raise money and awareness for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Anyone that's watching a fake stream, especially ones that are like, a lot of them just aren't even the right mission, like all this stuff. I've already heard people say like, I already saw this. I thought this mission took off 2 days ago. It's like, ugh, so disheartening. With this particular mission, let's make sure and be vigilant about that. Let people know, hop over to those feeds, let people know this is a scam, report them, let's get them out of here, and let's make sure that we are watching the official mission live. And yeah, we're listening in, we're trying to stay in the loop as best as humanly possible. So, yeah. Oh, this is crazy. So for all of you that are still tuning in, I really appreciate you tuning in. I am going to try and my whole thing, I brought like my extra iPad and everything for a secondary monitor so I can stream this. Again.
Yeah, SpaceX, just wondering when we should expect a reset on our T0 clock.
That's in work, Dragon. I'll let you know when we have that updated.
Yeah, Core just working through some housekeeping
And copy that, SpaceX.
with the Dragon displays.
Yeah, so we're obviously sad we don't get to go to space in 50 minutes like we were hoping, but I'm sure there's nobody more disappointed than the crew on board. But let's take this opportunity to learn a bit more about them. The Polaris Dawn mission has many first-time objectives, so the Polaris...
Okay, we have and will see a decent amount of this, so please go ahead and send me your questions about this particular mission, about spaceflight in general, and we will be sure and try to get a couple of them up on screen for you guys. And I'm excited to see what you guys have been asking questions, because I've seen a few of them go up. But let's get a couple of your questions answered. Let me get here into my queued messages and see what we got here. I probably need a few more. Let's see. Right now my queue is we have a lot of new members, so thank you to all the new members, including my left foot. I appreciate that. I actually currently am realizing I don't really have a good way to put on screen donations. It doesn't go through our system yet. So we do have Ash, who donated $20 to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Also, I believe someone from Thailand, thank you so much for the Thai bot of 100. And Jason Harris, thank you also for your donation. Again, everything is going towards St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So Random Space Junk just donated another $5, and Jason Harris and Connor O'Leary. So thank you guys so much. Let's get a few questions in here if we can, because this is, let me give you guys a quick summary again of what we're expecting to see here. So this is the second mission of this particular gentleman, who is Jared Isaacman, who funded the Inspiration 4 mission 2 years ago. Or was that 3 years ago? No, that was 2 years ago. And now, no, that was 3 years ago. That was 2021, wasn't it? That is crazy. And now this is the start of a new program called Polaris. And so there's going to be 3 missions. This is the first, called Polaris Dawn. And the idea is this is going to be pushing the boundaries. That he really wants to be pushing the boundaries of commercial spaceflight, pushing the boundaries of SpaceX's commercial offerings, and even pushing the boundaries of SpaceX's missions, period. And so that's why this particular mission is going to be their first ever EVA, so extravehicular activity. So you will see they are wearing brand new spacesuits. They look very similar to the IVA suits, the intravehicular activity suits. And those IVA suits is what we've seen them wear since, Crew 2 with Bob and Doug in 2020. And so all of the, Crew 1 through 8, all the Axiom missions, Inspiration 4 have all worn these IVA suits. But when you see shots of them inside the capsule today, they're actually wearing a slightly different spacesuit. Actually, it's basically entirely new, but it looks, from the casual observer, including myself, look almost identical to the IVA suit, which is actually, there it is right there. That's a huge testament that of the technology involved here, because spacesuits are normally big and bulky, especially when you have to fully pressurize them. They become less and less mobile. So to have them look as sleek and, they claim that they're actually very mobile and very comfortable is a huge, impressive thing that the engineers are able to do. By the way, Jim Burke, thank you so much for donating to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, as well as Raster OP98, Ricardo Mendez, Saxo, Adam OX, and an anonymous tip of 100 going to, it's not a tip, it's a donation to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Thank you so much to whoever that anonymous individual is. That's incredible, and it makes me so excited that you guys are actually sticking around with me this late, even though I'm already this is already the wrong time zone for me. I'm from Central Time Zone, so to be streaming at what feels like 2 in the morning, it's going to be 4:30 in the morning when this thing launches for me, is quite the stretch. So I just appreciate you guys hanging out with me and supporting a great cause and watching what I think is one of the most exciting missions of my lifetime already, honestly. I mean, sincerely, if you actually break it down into what this mission is doing the first commercial EVA, it's the first time that 4 people, they're going to depressurize the entire spacecraft, and all 4 people will be, exposed to the vacuum of space. So basically, all 4 of them are technically doing a spacewalk. Only 2 people are going to poke their heads out of the spacecraft, and so in a way, only 2 people will be outside the spacecraft. But yeah, it's just crazy, and I can't wait. So this is a great question from Ship26, asking how far outside of Dragon will the astronauts travel on the spacewalk? So since this is just a first, the first time they're doing anything like this, they're barely poking their heads out, and the hatch will open, and there's an aid called Skywalker, which is, it basically looks like a pool ladder almost, right? And they're going to be sticking their head, maybe we'll see shots of it here actually, but they're just sticking their heads out of the hatch and just kind of poking like their upper body. So they're not going to be free flying out there like, Ed White in the old, Apollo missions and Gemini missions, and which they found out is the wrong way to do a spacewalk, because it's extremely dangerous. You don't have great mobility. It's very exhausting, and basically, Buzz Aldrin found out the best way to do a spacewalk is to be holding on to things, the spacecraft, and actually being mobile that way. So that's what this is doing. It's just a first step of commercial spacewalk, which is just poking your head out. They don't have a very long tether. They're just trying to keep things conservative and just kind of proving first steps. So got to start somewhere, and this is where they are starting. So it's exciting though. This is still a really big deal. Hang on. So yeah, thank you, Ship26, for the great question. Okay, so kind of on that same question from Pranav Techie, did they mention the number of hooks that are placed on the outside of the Dragon? How far can the spacewalk? Can they spacewalk on those? Again, they're actually only basically just poking their heads out. There is no way to be mobile on the outside of Dragon. So, and this is the other person who's doing the spacewalk. So Jared will do the spacewalk, and Sarah will be the other one that is actually sticking her head out of Dragon. And so yeah, these are the two. Like I said, kind of in some way, all four of them have to depressurize. All four of their suits have to be okay. There's a lot of things that have to go right in order to even get into the spacewalk portion. But Sarah will be the other one that actually gets to poke her head all the way out of the spacecraft, which can you just even imagine? Let's see. I'm seeing, yeah, let me try to grab a few more of these questions. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to just grab a couple of these for you guys. Let's see. Where was it? Sorry. Let me answer this. Where is it? This is from Beef06. Oh, sorry. I added it to the queue. Let me push it here. We also have a new system for this, which is really exciting. This is from Beef06. Which tour did you prefer, SpaceX or Blue Origin? Of course, referring to, I've done, what is it now, 3 tours of Starbase in Texas, which is where SpaceX is building and launching their Starship rocket, which has been awesome. I mean, all those tours have been so exciting, and I love seeing the progress and kind of behind the scenes, and being able to bring that to you guys is like the coolest thing ever. But Blue Origin, I had the opportunity to go in there and be the first person to be able to tour that place publicly and share that with Jeff Bezos. And I mean, it was, in some ways things were very similar, because, you know, I've seen a handful of rocket factories, you know, outside of SpaceX and outside of Blue Origin. I've seen, you know, talked to a handful of you know, people and engineers about these things, about these endeavors. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last Elon one was harder for me to do, because it was a big time crunch to try to get from, ironically, when I found out that I was going to be doing that last Elon interview, I was literally on the plane to go do the Blue Origin tour. So I was already, you know, like quite frazzled and thinking about that. So if you notice that, well, and the other thing about I've maybe mentioned this a couple times, but the hard thing about the last SpaceX interview and Starbase interview is, frankly, we know almost everything. And so everything I wanted to ask, I'm like, well, we already know the answer to that. And I probably shouldn't have had that attitude of we already know, because I forget that, like, yes, there's a lot of us that pay attention to everything, but there's a lot of people that could use those fun questions. Like I saw a million questions of, why didn't you ask them why they don't do scales for the tiles, you know, like overlapping scales? And I asked him that on the first tour, you know, so it's like, well, I didn't want to ask him that again, because I've already asked him that question. If you actually stop and go like, what haven't I asked him? We start getting into some pretty technical things. And unfortunately, some of those technical questions actually have to be removed from interviews, because they start to get into ITAR compliance and things like that. So it was fun for me just because Blue Origin, this one was fun because it was all brand new. Everything was brand new for me. Talking and interacting with Jeff Bezos was brand new, which is really fun. And also, yeah, seeing all that stuff up close and personal was a first for not only me, but everyone publicly. And so in some ways that was really fun too. I don't know, they're both similar and different, and this is the longest winded answer ever. Yeah, so thank you for the question. This is from Johnny Chang saying, have these new EVA spacesuits been tested in a vacuum chamber? Yes, a lot. They've done full, like entire depress, everything, honestly, for this mission. And what's unique about this mission is that they're going to be pre-breathing inside the capsule for basically, as soon as they're in orbit, they'll be pre-breathing and slowly changing the pressure inside the spacecraft and getting the oxygen levels to be a pure oxygen environment. So they can be in, I forget what it is, like 6 psi or something is what the spacesuits end up being, so that they can basically slowly make sure they don't have like decompression sickness and or get the bends or anything like that, and slowly get them ready for an oxygen-rich environment. And so it's been pretty crazy that they've had to develop and test all of these different things in order to be able to do these spacewalks in a short time, because people living on the International Space Station are already in a different environment, and they can go from suiting up to spacewalking relatively quickly because the similar operating environments. And here we're going from Earth to space and then into an EVA situation relatively quickly. And you want your spacesuit to be at a lower pressure so it's not super rigid. If you had to inflate your, have a full 1 bar or 14.7 psi inside your spacesuit, the joints would be so rigid you literally like almost can't even move. So, EVA suits typically are anywhere between 4 and 7 or 8 psi, which is, roughly a third to a half a bar, or 0.3 to 0.5 bar, just to make sure that the mobility is better. So, so they have been tested in a vacuum chamber and tested just about everywhere. JD Morton, thank you so much for becoming a member. And let's check out Whit Wilson donated $20 to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Anonymous, $2. Another anonymous with $20, and Funzenolzenben, thank you so much for also donating €10 to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Absolutely amazing. This is a good question. I don't actually know what their waitlist toy is. So normally there's a 0G indicator. It's a traditional thing. I don't actually think we know what their 0G indicator is. Do we? Have they released? Have they shown that yet? I don't think I've seen it. Oh, here's a bit about the training. Let's listen to this real quick because it talks about the AVA stuff.
On the EVA or the spacewalks. In a development program, you don't know what you need to train to. Like, how can we run pressurized operations, simulate microgravity, but also have like a simulator that's powered, with hatches to get in and out of, so we don't have to submerge that in a pool.
We looked at a suspension system solution where we can set up a physics model that allows you to pressurize the suit, put on a harness, and then a hoist will lift a suited crew member up. And you can basically use one finger and you press down and your whole body will move up, just like in space.
It allowed us to really put into practice the different piece-by-piece steps that are necessary to complete this operation safely.
One aspect of our training has been scuba diving. The buoyancy allows us to kind of experience a different environment. The lack of communication is a challenge associated with scuba diving.
You rely on alternate forms of communication. You'll use different hand signals to communicate, like I'm okay, you're okay. So I would say scuba diving has a ton of great training lessons that are directly applicable to our spacewalk.
I have to say, I think the max fun here was the skydiving we did at the Air Force Academy. That was some of the best training ever.
When I dropped out of that airplane, sitting in the airplane as I was going up, I felt those nerves, all of that rush of emotions that comes with, recognizing that you are about to do a really high consequence operation.
And you're standing out, leaning into the wind, out of an aircraft, and then you just let go and you fall. It was incredible training. some of the most memorable training we've done.
For the centrifuge training, the purpose is to go through both a launch and a reentry as well as a launch escape mission profile in this human centrifuge that's spinning you around and imparting forces on your body that are similar to the ones that we will experience when we go through those operations actually in space.
When you're in space, you have to deal with the circumstances that you're dealt. Similar fashion is climbing a mountain. You're on the side of a mountain, it's taken days to get to where you're at, approaching the summit. You're dehydrated, you're hungry. You learn to manage those stressors. And those are all good preparation techniques in getting ready for space exploration.
We've had it all. We've had unbelievable, highs, and we've had, lows. It's just been a great 2 years of growth. Some of the best times of my life.
Dragon is the first private spacecraft to take humans to the International Space Station, and it's currently the only vehicle capable of returning significant amounts of cargo to Earth. It's also the first private spacecraft to take an all-civilian crew to orbit during the Inspiration mission in 2021. Over the last 4 years, the spacecraft has supported 13 human spaceflight missions and flown 50 crew members representing 14 countries. Through missions like Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn, Dragon is helping lay the groundwork for deep space exploration, rapidly expanding our knowledge of how humans will adapt, live, and work in space. Dragon can also help discover more about our home planet. With upcoming missions like From 2, we aim to do exactly that. Named in honor of the ship that helped explorers first reach Earth's Arctic and Antarctic regions, the crew of From 2 will be the first to explore Earth from a polar orbit. From 2 will be SpaceX's 6th commercial astronaut mission, and will allow the crew to observe Earth's polar regions through Dragon's cupola at an altitude of 425 to 450 kilometers. Over the years, Dragon has proven to be quite a versatile spacecraft. It can autonomously dock to the space station when outfitted with the ISS docking adapter. In free flyer mode, the docking adapter can be swapped out for a cupola for the best views while in orbit, and that'll be the case with the upcoming From 2 mission. Finally, we have our newest option, which is the Skywalker hardware to support a spacewalk, and the Skywalker will be making its debut on Polaris Dawn. And in addition, who knows what else the future will bring. Now, while the crew
Let me talk about a few things here real quick. First and foremost, Circuit Guy was pointing out that my volume was much lower than this. Let me know. I tweaked it a little bit. Let me know if the volume mix is a little bit better here. I'll mute, or I'll raise the volume again. Just let me know if it's closer.
it's carrying the 4 members of the Polaris Dawn crew.
How was that? Was that better? Still lower than... Okay, but hopefully it's much better. Still raise it. I can do a little more. I'll go like 9 dB. That should be a good enough boost. Okay. So let's answer a couple more questions. From Firemoth? Not sure. Thank you for saying hi, and thank you for your questions. How do you think the EVA will go? I'm super excited for it, and I really hope it goes flawlessly. Well, I do have to say, they have been training... Oh, that is a cool shot of Draco's firing. Look at all those Draco thrusters firing. That is so cool. Those are awesome shots. So sorry, I'm getting quite distracted. Okay, I expect the EVA to go quite well. They've obviously trained extremely rigorously. This mission was supposed to take off almost 2 years ago, was the original timeline, and it's obviously taken quite a bit longer, and that's because they are doing everything possible to ensure crew safety. So we will see if... that's the Skywalker right there. That's kind of the EVA mobility aid there. Yeah, but I expect this to go really well. They have thought of, I hope, and I think they think everything with a lot of contingencies. They have a lot of safety items in their array to be able to check off before they get anywhere close to be able to actually do the mission. So. So yeah, that's right. It's the St. Jude. It's the St. Jude dog in a spacesuit is the 0G indicator. That's right. I have seen that. Thank you for the reminder, Corona. I really appreciate that. Let's see here. So this is a question from Orion75 FW. Why would skydiving help train for this mission? Okay, so Jared, I've flown with Jared in his I've flown in his MiG once when he's doing fighter jet training, and I've flown in one of his Alpha jets for fighter jet training with Kid Poteet, with the pilot on this mission. And they train. You can kind of ask the same question: why would you train in a fighter jet? That's nothing like flying in an in a spacecraft. And why would you climb mountains to train? And why would you, do any of these things that really aren't sitting in front of a simulator? A lot of spaceflight is just getting, it's being uncomfortable. It's being put in situations that are high stress, where communication, where, high adrenaline, where physical jolting and maneuverability and visibility and all of these things get stressed. And so anytime you can practice feeling adrenaline and knowing how your body reacts to it, knowing how you communicate during those moments, they want to push. Jared believes in training the old school way, which is a little bit more like how the Apollo program and astronauts and the early astronauts trained. They trained under highly stressful, real world consequence environments. And skydiving is a perfect example of a high stress, real world consequence environment. And again, adrenaline, you have a lot of things that, even things like preparing your parachutes and doing things diligently, doing things via a checklist. There's a lot of important things that go along with something like skydiving. I think they trained with I believe it was the Air Force, or was it the Army? Probably the Army, actually. But they did, first drops were solo. So they did solo drops on their first drops, which is, it's really the only place you can do that in the United States. So pretty cool that, again, it's about training, it's about communication, it's about all of these things that can kind of directly and indirectly help you be ready for this. This is from Jello Mob. Where do I see rocket technology headed in the future? I think we see a pretty clear path that there's a lot of far-fetched technologies, a lot of things that, might be more efficient on paper, might be, better in space, all these things. But really the main driver, the main thing that really matters is lowering the cost. Period. Oh, it is raining. Hang on. I'm going to listen to this because they're talking about the weather still.
The crew up and the view up on top of the fixed service structure. We do have that light rain shower that we're talking about. Actually, right now, we would be at about T-minus 3 minutes, and the weather would be red. So the good news is when we made the decision to pause the countdown and go to the second T0, we avoided what would have been a scrub right now. Because as you may recall, once we begin loading propellant onto the Falcon 9 at T-minus 35 minutes, you're committed then. You've got to get down to zero and launch, or you're scrubbed for the day. Now, we did not start propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. A little bit of a status refresh. We got down to T-minus 44 minutes and 30 seconds approximately, and we called a pause or a hold in the countdown. We had just finished the electronic poll verifying that the Falcon team was go to load propellant into the Falcon 9, but we did not actually get that far. All evening or early morning, as the case may be, at Kennedy Space Center, we've been watching the weather. The launch weather officer had advised the team that a frontal boundary had come ashore in Florida. That was creating scattered cells that would pop up and occasionally violate the cumulus cloud rule, or in this case, as we just saw with the pad deck view there, or up on top of the fixed service structure, we were getting rain showers with rain higher up in the atmosphere than we would be allowed to fly through. So we continued to count down, fingers crossed, heading for that first T0, which was planned for 7:38 Universal Time. Inside T-minus 1 hour, it was still very uncertain whether or not the weather would cooperate for that first T0. The team took the decision down as far as they could inside of T-minus 50 minutes trying to get the last little bit of information. But just as we thought we were going to press on and go with the original T0, we saw a cell pop up on the radar map that exceeded conditions. We looked at that and decided to go ahead and hold the clock. We heard the Corps then go back up, talk to the crew, tell them that we were held, and then we recycled to the second T0. Now we have 3 T0 opportunities. The first one is now passing us by as we get ready at 7 hours and 38 minutes universal time, 10 minutes from now, and that would have been a scrub. The next one that we are aiming for is coming up at 9 hours, 23 minutes, 49 seconds universal time, just under the 2 hours you see there on the countdown clock. There is a third opportunity if we need it at 11 hours, 15 minutes universal time. The problem we have is the weather is still uncertain enough that the team can't make a decision whether the second T0 or the third T0 is the best one. We're going to continue counting down, obviously, as you can see on the clock there. The scattered rain showers we see, those should clear out of the way. But we most recently had another no-go condition pop up. The surface electric field, essentially the measure of how the atmosphere is electrically charged, has violated criteria. We're going to continue to watch that. We think that one will clear. Primarily, we're continuing to worry about the cumulus clouds and the possibility of having to fly through rain on the way up the northeast coast of the United States as we head into the orbit at just over 51 degrees inclination. The Corps has talked to the crew on board Dragon. The mission director for Dragon, they have done their readiness polls. We've also checked with the SpaceX Falcon 9 team. They are go. Also, it appears that the next T0, there is no proximity warnings or concerns with any orbital satellites. Sometimes you have to move a launch window a minute or two if there might be a conjunction in space. Right now, it looks like we don't have any of those issues. The big question will be whether or not the weather is going to be go at the next T0. The other plan that we have is while we are in this hold for a little while, this is giving the Dragon and Falcon launch teams a chance to rotate people on and off console, take a few minutes break. It's been a long early morning for the team. Everybody continues to have support. So, we're ready to support anything that may come up, but we are giving the crew a chance to refresh. The next major event is we continue asking the launch weather officer, what's the forecast look like? What's the forecast look like? The next big one coming up will be at T-minus 1 hour and 30 minutes, just over 22 minutes from now. That's when Dragon is going to rotate the seats back into the launch position. The crew right now is sitting upright inside the Dragon that you can see there. The crew access arm, and there's a view of the crew in their upright posture, and then we'll rotate to horizontal into the launch position to get ready. That'll be a little later in the count than we had done it the first time around, but that's fine. The hatch is closed, leak checks, everything is copacetic in Dragon. So they'll get ready in an hour and a half and go back into the launch position in their seats. We'll continue to bring it down. We'll get inside T-minus 1 hour where we'll do another evaluation on what the launch looks like. And then fingers crossed we'll be able to press past T-minus 45 minutes and get into the prop load at T-minus 35 minutes. Everything continues to look good. One reminder, the only people on the pad right now are the Dragon crew themselves, the 4 people inside the Dragon. You can see that crew access arm. The seals have been deflated. They're retracted. All of the handholds are out of the way. Everything's been cleared. The only thing really waiting for everybody is ideally we get inside 45 minutes so we can retract the arm. So nobody's going back out to the pad right now. All the vehicles are cleared off. So we're going to just continue to give you status updates as we go along, but Kate? Yeah. Hopefully the second T0 is the winner. The first one turns out the weather is red right now, and we wouldn't have been able to go.
Yep. Well, you know what? It's been a good rehearsal so far. And realistically speaking, while the Polaris Dawn crew, I'm sure, would be delighted to be closer to. Wait, how long have we been holding now? Would they be in space now? I'm not sure. My brain is a little mushy at this point. But the point is that they would still be in the Dragon capsule right now, regardless, in their seats, most likely. So they're not really doing anything significantly different physically anyway. Now, we did, as you heard John say, we did rotate the seats a bit so that they could.
All right. So that's the long-winded update from Innsbrucker himself and from the rest of the team at SpaceX. So those of you joining in, we're basically waiting for T-minus 90 minutes, so an hour and 30 minutes. About 20 minutes from now, we'll get another weather update. The biggest constraint here is, lightning conditions, rain. You're not going to fly a rocket through the rain because of the fact that we're going really fast. Rain hitting the spacecraft can be very bad. And cumulus clouds. So that's a rule that they can't. That is basically mostly a lightning strike issue there too. So let me go back to finishing this question from Jello Mob, where they asked, where do I see rocket technology headed in the future? And I was saying that realistically, there's a lot of technology ideas, and a lot of them are based on maybe a little bit higher thrust. Like you see Raptor engine that SpaceX is developing, continually pushing the thrust and thrust to weight ratio and efficiency, and improving in those metrics. However, at the end of the day, and this is something that SpaceX and other companies are working towards, is lowering the cost of getting things to space. Period. That is the technology. It's whatever makes this entire endeavor less expensive changes everything. Right now, if a Falcon 9, let's say the internal cost of a Falcon 9 might be $20 million. If SpaceX can get that down to $2 million, where you're not throwing away hardware, you're just paying for the fuel and an automated launch sequence and a couple people, a fleet of people to still run missions. If you can get it down to $2 or $5 million, that is game changing. Forget even the overall dollar per kilogram, which would be game changing with a much larger vehicle. But the main thing is bringing down the cost. Period. That is the technology that everyone's chasing. That is the goal that everyone is trying to achieve. Is how do we make spaceflight cheaper? And right now, that's all that matters. This is a question from Demetrius D. asking Tim, do you believe Elon's claims that the first Starship to Mars will launch in 2 years? I want to believe, but it seems unlikely. I would definitely say this is still pretty squarely, in my opinion, in Elon time, which means we double that, and that might be closer to something realistic. Starship is hard to judge because it goes from, currently it's like everything feels impossible and far away. And then at the same time, all of a sudden, it just feels like it's going to be like, ooh, just like Falcon 9. Falcon 9 went from launching 10, 12, 18, 20 missions a year to launching, 100 times a year. We're looking at hopefully almost 150 missions this year. So just the pace at which Starship will go from barely launching and not operational to operational and launching will go up exponentially. But the two big things for Mars, to even land on Mars with Starship, number one, to get there, it needs to be able to do orbital refueling. Orbital refueling, you have to load up Starship 6, 8, 10, 12 times with other tankers. So we're talking, X amount of full stack flights to rendezvous with the landing spacecraft, to refuel it, to be able to give it enough propellant to leave Earth orbit, get itself onto a trans-Martian injection, or basically out into the to be able to get it out to Mars's orbit so it can intercept Mars. So that's a technology that needs to be proven. That needs to be proven for the moon. That needs to be proven for Starship in general, for a lot of high energy missions, but specifically Mars, it needs to be able to do orbital refueling. That's a big one. I don't think that's, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to be ready in, in 2 years. I think we'll see some demonstrations maybe, next year. of orbital refueling, but to really be able to refuel completely and have that kind of rapid cadence, I think we're 2 or 3 years away from that. But the other big one is you have to have landing legs for Mars. SpaceX is working on catching the booster and Starship here on Earth, where you have a prepared situation, not just a landing pad, but the whole tower and everything. But on Mars, you have to have some landing legs. I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, landing legs is like a crazy, unbelievably difficult engineering challenge. But the big thing is that it is something that they have to consider with the entry into Mars's atmosphere. You have heat shields, and so you have to have legs that can extend through the heat shields and be able to deploy with all of those considerations of those gaps and those. There's just a lot of stuff there, a lot of seals, a lot of dynamic seals that need to be able to work that they'll have to figure out. And it also adds dry mass. It makes the vehicle heavier if you have to have landing legs, as opposed to here on Earth, they don't have to worry about that. So I don't think 2026 is probably that realistic. The other thing too, way before you fly humans to Mars, you have to be able to have a way to get them back from Mars. And that requires an unbelievable amount of energy, either acres of solar energy, which if you're talking about 2 years from now, you have to have a way to deploy acres worth of solar energy, deploy, massive in situ resource utilization, drills and things to be able to get water out of the surface of Mars, use the Sabatier process to combine you electrolyze the water to break it up into hydrogen and oxygen. You bond the hydrogen with carbon from the carbon in the atmosphere. And you have to be able to produce methane on Mars. So in order to get off of Mars, you have to be able to do all of this stuff. So I just think humans is still a long ways away. Humans is not happening in 4 years. You have to have these big goals, but 4 years, got a long ways to go. Let's see, this is a good question from Mark Lofthouse. Question, will Dragon and SpaceX be able to carry tools and equipment to build future space stations and repair satellites similar to the STS, so space shuttle missions? Yeah, so, I don't know if you realize this, but this mission in particular is almost a dress rehearsal because the Polaris program is offering to try to go up and boost and repair the Hubble Space Telescope. Now, we don't know exactly what that mission profile looks like, but don't forget there is the trunk of the Dragon capsule, which is unpressurized. They can put, equipment and things in there to be able to do, EVAs and dock and other things that you would need to be able to do for some of these missions. And it hasn't obviously been done yet, but this is the first step, quite literally the first step, the first spacewalk step. To be able to do anything like that, anything, of servicing, docking, reboosting, anything like that. That I think we will hopefully see someday. Dragon's not the best, architecture for being able to do, orbital repair, boosting missions. I think, having a space shuttle, a vehicle with a payload bay and an airlock makes a lot more sense, but Dragon is valid for, some of those things in the interim. I think that Starship would be a lot better suited for some of those missions. But here we are working on seeing if some of this stuff could make sense. Oh, I love this. You're seeing them practice. That's cool. That's cool. I love, trying to negate some of the considerations of training here on Earth. Let's see. This is from the Space Taoist saying, how exactly does this apply to a new vehicle like Starship, considering the crew modules and flight experience will be wildly different? Is this purely for crew readiness? So a lot of this, the spacesuits, you got to test them at some point. The sooner you can test the spacesuits and use them and develop EVA procedures and all these things, the better. So, currently that's probably one of the biggest things that will work towards anything on Starship is just proving out these spacesuits, proving out, developing the protocols. all of the things that need to be handled in order to be able to use these spacesuits in the future, they're being tested now. That's fantastic. But other than that, I mean, obviously you still have things on systems on Dragon that will be used on Starship. You know, you have crew life support considerations. You have a lot of things that are on Dragon that are being proven, flown, utilized with humans that will be used on Starship. So some things are direct correlation. Other things are like getting data for the future. So, okay. This is from 77 Patriot 77. Since their spacesuits are custom made to each person, do they get to keep them? I don't think they get to keep them. And I don't know, you know, yes, the suits are custom made, but I think they might just end up with a catalog of sizes. I don't exactly know the answer to that question. That is a very good question. Let's see here. This is from... we've had a few more donations, so thank you to Abeniv for a donation and an anonymous tip, Salvador donating, and 3 more anonymous tips of various donations, and Danny Luang. Of course, again, remember that all donations go straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, who is a partner with the Polaris program. So we're just helping to raise money and awareness for that incredible program. So yeah, any super chats here don't go to me; they go straight. It's not available in all regions. I'm understanding. I believe the URL for Polaris is just Polaris. Is just PolarisProgram.com. PolarisProgram.com. You can click on our cause, and it'll send you a place to donate to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So check that out. If you also need to figure something out, or if you aren't able to donate through the YouTube super chat system, you can donate directly by PolarisProgram.com. So let's see. I got to hear what they're talking about here.
Make a mock-up suit and go around trick-or-treat, maybe your kids, you know. It's like, hey, do you want to dress up in an EVA suit?
So we're going to see a lot of those this year, huh?
Yeah, the different style suits for the costume.
You don't have to just stick with the white and the gray, you know. You could use some colors, you know, a little bit like on Apollo lunar suits, where they would use different colored stripes to distinguish the commander, because in the photos, you're always going, who are we looking at? Oh, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so.
Yeah.
I love that you guys were mentioning, you know.
Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so this particular mission, again, another good question from 77 Patriot 77. What's the point of these time windows? Why can't they go whenever? And the big one with this one is we're dealing with not only a particular... the mission profile has them on a highly elliptical orbit. So the spacecraft is going, its highest point will be up to 1,400 kilometers. Its lowest point stays down around 200. I don't quite remember what, 175. I don't quite remember what the lowest point is. It's very low. And that makes it elliptical. It makes, you know, if it's circular, it'd be equal. Let's say 1,400 by 1,400. If it's elliptical, it means, you know, like you have your highest point and a lowest point. It's it's an ellipse. And so this particular mission, they're trying to make sure they're avoiding space debris. They're trying to avoid traffic. They're trying to avoid a lot of other considerations. So they have to fly and get out just on this perfect trajectory to be able to get out and make it so they can re-enter. I mean, it's all these considerations about where they're trying to go in space, what things they're trying to avoid, what things they're trying to fly through. They actually want to fly through some portions of the Van Allen radiation belt just for to study, you know, the radiation environments. Well, I don't know if it's like we're trying to, but that is part of the mission profile. It's actually going through the southern anomaly. So, there's a lot of considerations that go into it, and the other thing is with the Falcon 9 in particular, basically once you start fueling at T-minus 35 minutes, they're fairly committed to that T0 time. because it uses the super chilled propellant. So they densify the RP1, which is Kerolox or kerosene, sorry, and the liquid oxygen both get densified and chilled down additionally. And so there's a very short window, a very, very short window of when they can actually launch once they start fueling. So for the most part, it's a set in stone thing. Once they start fueling, that's either a go or it's a scrub, and there's no like, we're going to move the clock 2 minutes. They can't really do that with the Falcon 9, and they typically don't need to. So everyone talking about Darth Vader, yes, and sadly James Earl Jones did pass. This is a great question from X1 Viper. Tim, what are your thoughts on Isaacman? It seems he's positioning himself to be the first captain of a starship and ultimately trying to be the first man on Mars. So yeah, I've seen this question actually. Someone else said, like, do you think he's trying to be the first person on a starship? He is going to be the first commander of Starship. And that is going to be the third Polaris mission. So there's going to be a mission in between Polaris 1 and Polaris 3, obviously. There will be a Polaris 2. We don't know exactly what it was. We did have an announcement 2 years ago where they said that they're trying to work with NASA to, again, service and reboost the Hubble Space Telescope. But we don't necessarily know what the third mission, we do know what the third mission is for sure. And that is going to be the first crewed flight of Starship. It's already been purchased, already been bookmarked and signed and inked by Jared Isaacman. So he is very much positioning himself to be at the forefront and pushing these boundaries of not only commercial spaceflight, but I mean spaceflight in general. I mean 21st century spaceflight for sure. He's putting himself squarely in the the history books, so to speak. I don't think history books are as much of a thing as they maybe used to be. A lot of it now is Wikipedia articles. He's putting himself in the wiki of the future. But the reality is, the guy is so committed. I've been around a handful of individuals that have been astronauts, that are CEOs of spaceflight companies, and I've spent a decent amount of time with Jared, and I've always walked away from every conversation, every experience with him, just absolutely blown away by his humility, his dedication, his work ethic. He's just been incredible, and you can tell through and through with everything that he does that he takes it as he very seriously, pushes the limits on what I think is possible. And he's dreaming really big, and he's dreaming really big with SpaceX, and I think he's literally helping SpaceX get further along in spaceflight, and that's very exciting. Let's see here. ETC, do I think Starship will have a more generous launch condition ceiling, or will it be pretty similar? There will always be certain things. What are we talking about here? Hold on. Oh, yeah, we've already seen this one. They're kind of going on replay here. Do I think Starship will have more generous launch conditions? So, I mean, I think there's always going to be certain constraints that are just inherited to spaceflight. The Soviets and Russia typically is a little more lax with their conditions for flying, Soyuz, because they've flown it so many times. And I think that Starship, if it's genuinely flying as often as they want to fly it, they'll start expanding that envelope a little bit. And I think maybe they will be more comfortable flying it in less ideal weather conditions. Instead of 10 miles away from cumulus clouds, maybe they're okay flying it at 5 miles away, or 8 kilometers. Hard to tell what the future is going to look like, but in general, it should be more robust, just being larger. If you think about the energies involved, like upper level winds shouldn't affect a huge vehicle to the same degree as a smaller vehicle. However, those shear forces still can be kind of ridiculous as well. Yeah, pretty nuts. Pretty nuts to think that, when Starship is flying, how Starship and New Glenn and other, massive vehicles, how much, if they're flying as frequently as people think and hope, what we'll learn and how much our envelopes can expand. This is from Dev Pilot. Does Starship use its belly heat shield TOS for both Mars entry and Earth reentry? Yes. The same reentry system that enables Starship to be able to re-enter on Earth will be the same type of system that will allow it to re-enter, or I guess enter, sorry, not even re-enter, enter on Mars. Mr. Burt Wayne, what size of donation do I need to lose the stash? I don't know, haven't considered it. You know, it's not just a mustache, there is more to it than just a stash, so I don't know, haven't thought about it. Maybe, I have no idea. We can talk about that later. It's too late. I haven't thought about shaving my mustache. Let's see, I have a question here in Discord that I want to answer real quick. Let me see if I can actually pull it up here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to have to pop into the queue here. Discord. Let's see here. Okay, this is... Hang on. How did I do this? Okay. This is from SpaceX Germany in our Discord channel, saying, "Hi Tim, I listened to that Joe Rogan podcast with Bart Siebel. 1, have you got any feedback on whether you'll debate him? And 2, he claims that flying to Mars due to the zero-G environment is impossible because of human physical limitations. What's your take on that?" I've got a take. First off, thank you for the question and thank you for being in the Discord. If anyone wants to join our Discord, it's available by being a Patreon member at patreon.com/everydayastronaut. So thank you so much for the great question. Okay, so first off, I have heard from individuals that have spoken with him, and he's kind of seeming to get cold feet about coming back to the United States to do... he does not live in the United States. Apparently, I think he lives in Asia. And he basically made it sound like, oh, I don't know, just kind of grumbling about it. So would love to debate him. And he claims that flying to Mars due to the zero-G environment is impossible because of human physical limitations. No. We've had humans on the International Space Station in space for almost a full year straight. Mars transit is anywhere between 6 to 9 months. More, closer to 6 for human spaceflight would be the target. That is completely within the realm of, what humans do for totally normal rotations for the International Space Station. Now, granted, when they return, they're not always in great shape. They have to do some rehabilitation. So, in other words, you could fly out to Mars without... Now, of course, there's ideas, of gravity tethers and doing big... rings, basically, or like tying two starships together, creating artificial gravity, yada, 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 to avoid some of the problems that you would have in zero-G for long periods of time. But the reality is, worst case scenario, you show up to Mars, you're not in great shape, and you have to sit on the surface doing a rehabilitation, regimen for a few days before you're actually able to stand and walk around. I mean, what's a few days when you're going to be there for, 18 months, basically, is the typical return window is after 18 months. So, okay, so you have to crawl around and rehabilitate yourself to, and it's only 38% gravity compared to Earth. So it should be easier to, get your legs back underneath you on Mars than it would be being in space for 6 months and then, in zero-G and then coming back down to Earth. I think we should hear an update on weather. But yeah, hang on. I'm going to listen in real quick.
Next launch opportunity, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that the weather cooperates better this time than it did last time. So we saw a little bit there about what these 4 individuals are taking with them into space. I think Jared's advice was kind of interesting. Take less. I kind of agree with that. I personally would probably just take my wedding ring, some flower seeds to plant, and my favorite book. Speaking of which, we already mentioned it earlier, but it's just such a beautiful book. This is a book that Anna actually co-authored, and it is basically just like a story for her children, and she's taking a copy with her to space, and I'm going to order one for myself and very kindly ask her to sign it when she gets back.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that Anna gets to bring something that she wrote and created onto the vehicle with her. But Atticus, what would you take?
I don't know, maybe just some popcorn, some candy, some soft drinks,
Some snacks.
Yeah, some snacks. It's a long trip potentially. So.
Would you save any for you to eat when you came back to Earth, or?
Oh, that's a good.
Okay, so they're not talking about weather quite yet, but I did see a question here where Space Beagle asked, "Whoa, Tim, can you elaborate on that tie two starships together to generate artificial gravity thing?" I mean, we've seen. Small Stars did an awesome video on it several years ago. We've seen, that's a classic idea, is basically have a tether between two starships or any vehicle really. And the big thing is you really do want some distance so that you're not spinning, your RPMs can be relatively slow. So let's say you had a long enough tether, you could do just like 1 RPM. If you rotated a starship on its, like this, rolling it, even though it's a 9 meter or 30-foot diameter, unfortunately, even if you're standing on the walls, there's a certain limit to your head and your feet being rotating at different speeds, basically. So you imagine that you're standing there inside of this rotating barrel. You feel like you're continually falling. Your body can sense that your feet are falling, are moving at a different rate than your head. And it will continually trick your brain into saying you're falling, and you will get really dizzy. So you need a big enough diameter that you can rotate slowly enough that you don't sense that. So a 9 meter wide diameter is not wide enough to be able to produce, definitely not 1G. You might be able to do like 0.1 G or something just by spinning on Starship and creating some light artificial gravity. That might be small. I don't know what the trade-off number there is exactly, but the other option is some kind of tether. Now, the problem with a tether, don't forget, if you're anywhere near 1G, think about how heavy duty that cable has to be able to have 2 of them partially fueled. We're talking about 200 tons tethered together. I mean, there's a lot of stresses. That's got to be a pretty thick, heavy cable. I don't know how feasible that is. I don't know how. But that's kind of one of the classic first principles idea of how you can create artificial gravity along the normal axes of the ships to avoid motion sickness. Let's see. Again, on this topic from Joshua Holiday, just listening real quick. Yes. The third Polaris mission will be the first crewed Starship mission. And frankly, between you and I and everyone listening, that's one of the things that I would try to remind the Dear Moon program, was that we wouldn't fly until after Jared's third mission. And so there should have been no doubts about a realistic timeline. Is we're not flying until Jared flies on Starship. And, based on conservative estimates, if he flew, this was last year that this was being said. I said if he flies in 2024 with Polaris 1, 25 for Polaris 2, and 23 for Polaris 3, 24, 25, and 26 for Polaris 3, we won't fly until at least 2026. Quite simple. I was a little bit even further out on that timeline for what I thought was realistic. So this has been publicly known for actually a few years now that Polaris 3 would be the first crewed mission on Starship. Let's see here.
As you're just saying, everything is kind of in abeyance for the moment. We're waiting to get more information on weather. You can see a view of Dragon spacecraft on top of Falcon 9 at Launch Complex 39A on Kennedy Space Center. Lights are on in the crew access arm, but it doesn't mean anybody is in the arm. And you can see there on the screen the crew. We rotated their seats back into the launch position at T-minus 1 hour and 28 minutes, just about 7 minutes ago. Currently, we're slowly moving up on T-minus 1 hour where things start to pick
weather
up.
Update.
And here comes the weather update.
QLB.
All weather rules just cleared about 30 seconds ago, so we have a green range for weather rules, and we'll have our SpaceX meteorologist fill you in for the next T0.
It's great to hear, and stay by.
Green weather, that is shocking.
And Dragon, SpaceX weather officer here. We did violate a number of launch rules for that cumulus that popped up at that initial T0, so made a good call there from the whole team, SLD 45 and all. And we are tracking a much better POV for this next T0. The elbow is tracking a 35% chance of violation, and if everything holds as it currently looks for another 20-30 minutes, we should be able to step that POV down. But overall, looking good for this next launch attempt.
And copy that, weather officer. That's really great to know. 35% presently for POV, and should be stepping down in the next 20 minutes or so. Good to hear.
Wow.
Okay, so they've told the crew that what we're just getting from the launch weather officer. The first launch attempt we had to hold as we got inside T-minus 45 minutes. A cell had popped up, and it looked like we were going to be no-go at T0, which would have scrubbed us for the morning. So instead, we held off before we began prop load into the Falcon 9. That preserved a second launch attempt coming up in just under 80 minutes from now. That T0 is planned for 9 hours, 23 minutes, 49 seconds universal time, or 5:23 and 49 seconds a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Just about an hour or so before dawn there in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So hopefully they'll get a good view if the weather continues to dissipate. As I mentioned, we had the crew rotate seats back into the launch position at T-minus 1 hour and 28 minutes. On the SpaceX Falcon 9 side, the launch chief engineer is going through a technical readiness poll, making sure that the Falcon team is ready to pick up the count as we get inside T-minus 1 hour. Also, amplify a little bit on the launch weather officer. It's always interesting. A probability of violation, or POV as they call it, of 35%. So that means essentially 1 chance in 3 of violating the weather constraints that we would have for a launch. It's interesting. An optimist would say it's a 60% probability of good weather. You know, I don't know why we do the probability of violation, but that's the history. It's been that for as long as I have known it. The big thing that is changing is that the weather was fairly chaotic over the last hour. It's very hard to model and predict as the boundary layer was coming ashore. What they're seeing right now in the weather radar is the boundary looks like it's dissipating. And as the Corps told the crew and the weather officer amplified, we ought to know more in about 20 minutes as we get down close to T-minus 1 hour, in which case the probability of violation may actually decrease, give us an even better chance. Still looking at a variety of things. The rain showers that we saw earlier on the camera lens, making sure that they've dissipated, that we don't fly through rain on the way up. We also want to make sure the big one is cumulus cloud rules. We don't want any thick, high altitude clouds in the flight trajectory. And then, of course, continuing to watch the winds, but that looks to be pretty good. And if the rain dissipates and goes away, then the electric field intensity, which is currently green and go for launch, should also stay that way. So fingers crossed that the weather will continue to improve and we get a go here to continue through T-minus 1 hour and then prop load and take it the rest of the way on down. But right now, Kate, things are looking a little more optimistic than they were an hour or so ago.
Yeah, certainly better. Hearing that we've got a 35% chance of violating the weather requirements instead of 60, that's certainly a welcome improvement. So let's talk a little bit about the research that's going to be.
Okay, yep, we've heard this a few times now, so let's go back to answering some questions. But again, just to reiterate, weather is looking much, much better. So They are pushing forward towards this. The T0 time that you see on screen is go right now. So also at about T-minus 1 hour, we should get one more weather update in which they hope that the weather will potentially improve even better from a 35% chance of weather violation, potentially below that. So hopefully over 65% percent go. So let's keep going. Darren Lowe, thank you for becoming a member. Greatly appreciate it. I did see we've had some new anonymous tips come in. We had a tip from some 4 anonymous tips, and the last anonymous tip was a $100 donation towards St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So everyone say thank you to whoever that generous soul was, and thank you so much for your support of helping me support the Polaris program's mission of fundraising for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which is a great cause. Pretty awesome that that they're continuing this partnership with St. Jude, because it's obviously an amazing program. So let's answer your questions. So Carson Reeder asking, what do you think the main risks and contingencies are during EVA, so during the extravehicular activity? The main risk is just that you have 4 people all relying on the spacesuit. The spacesuit is now basically a human-sized, human-flexible spacecraft, right? That's what a spacesuit is. The spacesuit is literally just it's a spacecraft that you wear, you know? And so you now have 4 individual spacecrafts, all needing to make sure that there's no leaks. If there's, that's the thing that I don't doubt that they've obviously tested everything and that everything's going great and that they have a high reliability of this. But if you have 4 people relying on their spacesuits, sorry, I'm getting tired. It is very late for me normally. If you have 4 people relying on these spacesuits, you just have to make sure that everything's perfect. You can't push it at all if there's anything out of bounds. So I think the biggest risk is just making sure before they even, as they begin to depressurize the vehicle and as the spacesuits are pressurized up, I think that's where we could see a go, no-go situation of maybe these, maybe these suits, if they're not perfect in the moment, could cause a scrub. So of the EVA. So we will see. Christina F54 asking, for the EVA, do they have GoPros on a stick to video it? They have a few cameras, an external camera from the hatch. I think there's 2 external cameras to help catch the views. Obviously, there's cameras inside of Dragon. I believe, remind me if I'm wrong, but I think these EVA suits have a built-in camera now. I think that I can't recall off the top of my head. It's been so much of this mission we've learned about slowly over the last 2 years. Some of these conversations with the crew and questions were 2 years ago, and it's just hard for me to recall some of them right now. But there will be plenty of videos, and they are hoping to be able to stream and broadcast these spacewalks. So stay tuned for that on day 2. Oh man, I'm sorry everyone. This is, like I said, this is normally 3 o'clock in the morning for me, and I normally go to bed at about 11. These guys are going to space, and I'm just here drinking my yogurt. I can relate to that. From Ninja Coder Tech, when do you think Starship will next launch? It's looking, I haven't been hearing much about September anymore. We were hearing September for a while, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the end of September or early October at this point. But we will see. We will have to wait and see. There's definitely some new licensing and new things they have to work out in order to be able to do the booster catch attempt, because don't forget, the next Starship launch, they are hoping to catch the world's largest rocket booster out of the sky. So they'll literally have chopsticks on the Mechazilla tower, on the launch tower that is normally used to stack the rockets. It will be used to try and, it's less that it will try to catch the booster and more the booster is landing on the chopsticks, which is absolutely crazy. Mr. Paul, Elon talks about Mars in 2 years, but surely the next step would be a base on the moon. Well, that's kind of already in the works with the Artemis program. Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think that's a good next step is being able to develop a permanent habitat and system between Earth and Moon, like actually having vehicles going between the Earth and Moon consistently, and having humans, a permanent presence on the Moon with humans would be awesome. The only problem is that living on the Moon does require, at least for now, it does require constant maintenance, constant resupply, constant support from the Earth to live on the Moon. Mars has the potential, or better potential, to be able to be inhabited solely without the support of Earth. Still very ambitious. Both of them are extremely ambitious, but Mars just has it's just better suited for that. You can on Mars you can literally refuel a vehicle to be able to get back to Earth from Mars, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's methane, and oxygen. So Mars has that built in, has a little bit more gravity. Ooh.
Low pressure system.
They're cycling valves is all. They mostly just let the crew know that they're going to be cycling some valves, and that just allows the crew to know, like, hey, you might hear something, and don't be worried. Which I would want that reassurance if I was sitting there too. So, yeah, moon base hopefully soon. Mars, who knows? I appreciate that. I hate to say it, but I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. I don't think that the chat has too much to say in this, but I do appreciate the compliment. Thank you. This is from Chris Naylor saying, your interview site visit with Jeff Bezos really opened my eyes to him. My view of Jeff has really changed my opinion of him. He really seems to know stuff. I saw Jeff reveal the Blue Lander in DC, I believe it was in 2019. And that was the first time I saw him do like a keynote speech with anything about space. And I was sitting there going, this is awesome. Why don't we hear him talk about this stuff all the time? I frankly didn't know much about Jeff Bezos before then, and I hadn't heard much after that for a long time. But I remember being very impressed, going, Jeff is great. When he's talking about spaceflight, he's knowledgeable, passionate, huge history buff. Like, why aren't we seeing more of this? And then he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and again went into a decent. There's probably 30 or 45 minutes just about spaceflight, and I'm sitting there like listening to it, going, oh, why isn't this more normal? Why aren't we hearing more from him about his passion for space? Because he's a huge spaceflight buff. And yet people doubt him. I see so many comments of people going, oh, he's just memorizing stuff from his engineers. Jeff is an engineer. Jeff has an engineering degree. You can't fake, when I'm asking technical questions, you can't fake a script of that. You have to have the built-in knowledge. And Jeff is knowledgeable. In the same way that Elon knows his stuff about SpaceX, Jeff knows his stuff about Blue Origin. They might both have, I don't know why people feel the need to always compare the two. I get it. They both are billionaires who own two of the biggest spaceflight companies. I get that comparison, and I get it's natural, but the need to rank them or something just feels unnecessary to me, because they both have their own talents and skills and knowledge and passions. And frankly, I was extremely impressed with my conversation with them, and I am glad that people got to see more of that side of him, because I want those opportunities for people that are as passionate as they are about things. Let's see. So this is from Vermouth. Are they all in EVA suits from the beginning? The answer is yes. They are already suited up in the EVA suits now. By the way, I love seeing any shots inside Starbase. It's always exciting. So we just need to soak that in for a little bit. Let's see. From Alex Tuk, thank you for doing this stream again. I always love following the launches through your channel. Well, thank you, and thank you for staying up with me. This has been a hard one to track. I knew, like I said, I'm for those of you joining now, I'm out of town. I'm in California. I had a family wedding this weekend, yesterday, or Sunday, I guess. It's now technically Tuesday. So this has been a hard one to track. But I really don't want to miss this one because it's so exciting. Yeah, so thank you. Hold on.
Any copy that, SpaceX. We're stepping into section 5, 4.100.
All right, so just the core syncing up with the crew, informing them that we are continuing with the launch countdown. So I was talking about the Artemis 3 program, the Artemis program, specifically the Artemis 3 mission, and how the Starship vehicle, like the one that you see there on your screen, will perform an uncrewed demonstration mission before the Artemis 3 mission. And that will be the first human surface expedition since 1972. With the ability to deliver cargo and people to the lunar surface.
SpaceX, section 5, 4.100. Cruise go for launch.
All right, that is...
Copy, crew is go for launch.
Music to our ears. Crew is once again still ready for launch. So with the ability to deliver cargo and people to the lunar surface, we'll be ready to help humanity build a sustainable presence on the moon and learn how to live off-world before the next step to Mars.
When the time comes for humans to explore the moon and beyond, they'll have to take everything with them for a surface expedition. Building bases or even cities will require huge amounts of cargo and eventually crew, and that's where Starship comes in.
This year is shaping up to be a busy one for Starship. As we mentioned, we completed the fourth flight test of Starship on June 6th down in Starbase, Texas, as you see there. The Super Heavy booster lifted off successfully and completed a full duration ascent burn.
Starship executed another successful hot stage separation, powering down all but 3 of Super Heavy's Raptor engines and successfully igniting the 6 second-stage Raptor engines before separating the vehicles. Following separation, the Super Heavy booster successfully completed its flip maneuver and boost back burn to send it back towards its splashdown zone.
The booster's flight ended with a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico, 7 minutes and 24 seconds into flight. The landing was caught by both the onboard camera as well as one of our marine buoys.
Meanwhile, Starship's 6 second-stage Raptor engines successfully powered the vehicle to space and placed it on the planned trajectory for coast. Starship made a controlled re-entry, successfully making it through the phases of peak heating and maximum aerodynamic pressure, demonstrating the ability to control the vehicle using its flaps while descending through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds.
And speaking of those flaps, Starship provided live video throughout re-entry via SpaceX's Starlink satellites, providing most spectacular views. And we all cheered on the little flap that could as it hung on with the last strings for dear life. Now, these Starlink-enabled views, they were incredible, and we're looking forward to having similar incredible views on Polaris Dawn.
Yeah. Flight 4 ended with Starship igniting its 3 center Raptor engines and executing the first flip maneuver and landing burn since our high-altitude test campaign, followed by a soft splashdown of the ship in the Indian Ocean about an hour and 6 minutes after launch. The 4th flight of Starship made major strides to bring us closer to a rapidly reusable future. Its accomplishments will provide data to drive improvements as we continue rapidly developing Starship into a fully reusable transportation system.
Now, looking forward to Flight 5, we're getting ready to attempt the first ever tower catch of a booster. Now, returning the booster after launch is a core capability to Starship, becoming rapidly and reliably reusable.
And speaking of rapidly, as of August 21st, we had both towers fully stacked, which is so incredible to see.
That's a real photo. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So stay tuned for exciting updates as we get closer to this next launch. And as always, excitement is guaranteed.
Now, for those that have
Okay, so we've actually seen this exact pitch, but I don't know. I have to watch things about that with Starship. But I think we're about to get another weather update, which is, again, the important thing here. Let me answer a few more questions here. From ETC again, great question. Do I think Falcon 9 will become obsolete immediately after Starship starts launching cargo? Will Falcon 9 likely be limited to only crewed missions until those are also replaced? I think internally, yes. I think SpaceX will very quickly move Starlink launches all to Starship as soon as it's operational for cargo. But there's a lot of missions that are purchased, like Department of Defense and particular customer missions that are flying that purchase a ride on Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy. The vehicles, the spacecraft are designed for those particular environments, for those acoustic environments, for the vibration environments, for the fairing constraints, for everything. It typically is like, by the way, just take a look at all this stuff. This is amazing. Highest Dragon Earth orbit attempt. Yeah, amazing. Anyway, so what was I saying? Something. So there's if a customer has paid for a Falcon 9 mission, for the most part, they will all continue to be on Falcon 9. I think there will be a good 5 to 10, maybe more like 6 to 10 year overlap of Falcon 9 flying while Starship is operational. But again, for internal use, I think SpaceX will quickly want to be switching over to Starship as soon as possible, because in theory, it should be saving them a lot of money. They're talking about
it was going to improve as we get closer to T0, so fingers crossed it stays that way. Now, over the last more than 3 hours, I think more like 5 hours at this point, the Polaris Dawn crew donned their SpaceX suits and were then transported to the pad where our crew entered Dragon spacecraft, the one that you see there on your screen. Since arriving at the spacecraft, the crew were helped by our closeout team to get in there.
Okay, this is all just, yeah. This is from Zephyr, asking if there's ever been an in-flight abort during an actual crewed mission in a space launch history. Yes. One just happened in 2018. 2018, there was a Soyuz abort in flight. It was not a pad abort. It was not, it was straight up in flight. But ironically, it was right after they aborted, the Soyuz has a launch tower, a tractor launch tower launch abort tower that is ejected right before separation of the boosters, which I still don't quite get why exactly that is. But basically what happened is, so they eject the launch tower, the boosters detach, and one of the boosters did not detach properly, and it actually struck the core, because the Soyuz takes off with a core booster with 4 attached radial boosters, and one of the 4 boosters had a pin that wasn't quite inserted properly. That normally, when they eject, it basically pops open the oxygen tanks, and it vents all the oxygen gas, and that pushes them away from the booster to clear, make sure there is no contact with the booster and the vehicle. And unfortunately, one of the pins did not pop correctly, and it scorched and ended up breaking the skin of the center core. And that triggered an abort, and the vehicle safely aborted. Ooh, weather update.
Go SpaceX.
Dragon, we are currently go for launch. Updated probability of violation is 20%. So with that, we are going to be pressing towards T02. We'll keep you updated if any other weather comes through.
Hey, copy that.
Dances and cheers inside the capsule. I can't imagine.
So as we just heard, our opportunity for launching is sounding better and better. The probability of violation.
Amazing. Okay, so yeah. Oh, by the way, yes, that was MS-10 was the exact Soyuz mission, and but yeah, for those of you that just heard and need to reiterate, 20% chance of violation. That actually means 80% go for launch according to weather. So in about 20 minutes though from now, at T-minus 35 minutes, they'll begin prop loading. So Falcon 9 has flown more than any other modern rocket in history by a lot, and its frequency is getting ridiculous. So I don't expect any mechanical delays at this point. They did have a helium ground side issue about 2 weeks ago at their first attempt, and that got resolved immediately. That same, within 24 hours, they recycled and were ready for the next launch opportunity. Small things like that do happen, but since it's a well-oiled machine of the Falcon 9 launching so frequently, a thing like that is absolutely nothing. That's no big deal. And yeah, this is really exciting because we're seeing them move towards an actual launch attempt. Let's see. So yes, there has been, back to Zephyr Easy, yes, there has been in-flight abort of a mission. So very cool. Very cool to see safety system working. From Tim asking, Tim, why hasn't NASA approved the 7 crew member Dragon capsule design? At this point, it just is a matter of practicality. There's 4 seats that first off they recline like this and pitch up, and I think even that reclining motion does restrict some of the ability to have 3 seats underneath it. But the biggest thing is that cargo. If you just the practicality of what missions can have 7 people where you don't also have to have cargo and other considerations, because those cargo pallets take up basically that entire floor, and that's extremely useful when launching to the International Space Station. I just don't think there's much need or ability to utilize a 7-person crew capsule where you also don't need to worry about cargo at all, where you're just like, we need to just fly 7 people with no cargo considerations. I just don't think it's something that is even really a consideration. Ship 26, how many days into the mission will a Starlink demonstration take place? I think it's pretty quickly. I don't recall. I don't know if anyone in Discord knows the answer or if anyone in chat has the answer right on the top of their head. I don't recall when exactly the Starlink demonstration will take place, but having laser point-to-point communication and basically having potentially, gigabit internet in space is a huge deal. Even relieving some of the, the vehicle obviously can still communicate via TDRS and other satellite communications and ground communications. But being able to use Starlink is huge. Let's see. Flight 4 is the Starlink demo. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Okay, so Zachary Hudson, I noticed that the tippity top of Dragon, where the docking port and cupola Skywalker is at a slight angle. Why isn't it flat/flush like the rest of the vehicle, like Starliner and Apollo? I know exactly what you're talking about. The docking cap, the actual forward hatch, is at a slight angle, and why? I don't know the answer to that. I'm trying to think of a practical reason why it would be at an angle and not just completely flat. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. If anyone knows the answer to that, I actually have no idea. That's a really good question. This is from Espen. Asking, is the EVA suit comparable to the suits they use to the ISS to do spacewalks? They look very different. Comparable in the sense that they achieve the same, they have the same goal. And lever arm for more torque. So the hinge point is further back. I don't internal components, make the door bigger. seeing a lot of, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of answers. I'm not sure if any of those are specific. But okay, so back to the ISS suits. So EVA suits on the ISS are very big and bulky, but the idea, the question is, are they comparable? They're comparable in the sense that they both perform EVAs or perform extravehicular activity and are able to be exposed fully to the vacuum of space. IVA suits, on the other hand, are not meant to be used outside the vehicle. That's why they're IVA, intravehicular suits. Or intravehicular activity is the IVA. And so, they're not, they're meant to be used in an emergency for a short period of time. EVA suits are meant to be extended, a lot more thermal considerations, we're talking pressurized, higher pressures, a lot of things to just be able to use and work and use them outside in a free-flying environment. And so, they're perform the same task as the ones on the ISS, the ones that the shuttle had, the ones that Gemini had, the ones that Apollo had. They perform the same task, but the new EVA suits you see here in this video are sleek and simple and pretty incredible. From Jonathan Dirks, does Blue Origin have any plans for fairing reuse? I don't recall anything. I didn't hear anything when I was there about fairing reuse, but I feel like I did hear something about it at one point, but I don't seem to recall off the top of my head right now if Blue Origin does have any plans for fairing reuse. This is from Exodus Games, working at Blue Origin Engine Factory in Huntsville. Very cool, where they make the BE4 and BE3 and BE7. Currently headed to work watching this. Thanks for keeping me entertained. That is awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Tony's saying, I'm wearing an Everyday Astronaut Aerospike engine t-shirt right now. Go get one. They are cool. I agree. They are cool. I think those are still on sale for half off under our RUD section, so our rapid unscheduled disassembly, or rapid unscheduled discounts at everydayastronaut.com. Friendly reminder again to anyone happen to be new here, any of the Super Chat donations do not go anywhere near me. They go straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So huge thank you to everyone, including another anonymous tip for $42, good number, and from Anarchy's Video World for €5. Some very generous donations going straight to a very good cause and helping to support the bigger cause for the Polaris mission, which is, again, raising funds and awareness for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. This is a good question from Mart Attacks. How much fuel and oxidizer is lost with a scrub? Additional boil-off percentage non-recoverable. I believe that RP1 is basically fully recovered since it doesn't boil off. It's shelf stable. It exists as liquid at normal, human temperatures. So I'm pretty sure it's almost fully recovered. Oxidizer, on the other hand, I think they lose nearly 50%-ish when they do a scrub. So a lot of it is lost to boil off. A lot of it is lost, mostly to boil off. Just it gets warm, turns into a gas, has to be vented because obviously as it goes from a liquid to a gas, it expands. If you don't vent it out, you will rupture your tanks. Let's see here. This is from John S. Will they launch a payload with the next Starship? Nope. They're not going to do a payload on Starship until they've proven out a handful of things. So, no payload yet. That won't be for a little bit longer. I think we'll want to see safe re-entry of Starship a few times. Probably booster catch isn't necessary for a payload, but I would expect that to be something that we expect to see, though. This is from Carson. Do I think Starship is practical for geosatellites if orbital refueling is required, or will Falcon Heavy / Vulcan still be better options? So people tend to forget, including I think even Tori Bruno seems to, he did say direct to geo, I think, right? He did say geo. but Starship can launch things to geostationary transfer orbit. It can launch, I think it's 20-some tons to geostationary transfer orbit. That's still a substantial amount. However, when it does that, and
the launch director has also checked with the Dragon mission director for their readiness. Everything continues to look good. We're going to be hearing some instructions from the SpaceX launch director. He'll be making announcements on the control room lockdown and protocols for hold or launch escapes. And he'll also be reminding the team that inside of T-minus 10 seconds, only the computer can abort the launch. Now, once the LD, the launch director, gives these instructions, they will clear the team to proceed with moving the crew arm away from the launch vehicle. You can see the arm is in the access position right now, but once we get...
Pull is complete and the team is ready for crew access arm retract, propellant loading, and launch. Both control rooms will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, breathe the C or LD and they'll approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off, relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
that is awesome. That is excellent.
We've heard the instructions. We're waiting to hear them inform the crew that access arm retract has started. We're also watching on the monitors as we see the crew access arm, waiting for it to begin into motion.
There it goes.
And once we get through this, then we will be arming the launch escape system. And there's a view.
Access arm retraction has started.
Crew access arm retraction has started. Once that's all the way back in the stowed position, we'll arm the launch escape system, proceed down to propellant load starting at T-minus 35 minutes. One other update, weather probability of violation, as we mentioned, down to 20%, and they just checked with the launch weather officer. Nothing appears to be in the area that would be a risk to T0 in just over 44 minutes. And Jesse, you can see crew access arm starting to come back now.
Yeah, this is a very exciting moment here. This is one of the last major visual milestones that we'll see in preparation for liftoff. And soon we should also hear the call out that the
Crew access arm retraction is complete.
And great call there. That is the conclusion or completion of the crew access arm retraction. We should also hear the call out for the launch escapes.
Dragon, you are go for section 6. Close visors and arm the launch escape system.
Copy that, SpaceX. We are stepping into section 6. We're going to close visors and arm LES.
And there it
LES,
is.
launch
They're getting
escape
ready
system.
to arm the launch escape system. And the crew is closing their visors, which you can see there. This is in preparation for that arming of the launch escape system. And then also coming up will be Falcon 9 prop loading beginning.
Yeah, we can see their tablets there on their legs, strapped on top of their
SpaceX
suits.
Dragon, section 6.2, our visors are closed, and we are proceeding with arming LES.
SpaceX copies.
So those tablets that they have provide all the information that they need for the mission. The crew, as you can see, reporting that they are ready for the next steps, reporting that all their visors are closed. Arming of the launch escape system now coming up.
Ooh, I have to point out, everyone say thank you to Pink Coffee for a... Oh.
Is verified armed.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same.
Amazing.
That's good
SpaceX
news.
Dragon, we're closing out 4.100.
4.100, a reference to
SpaceX copies, closing 4.100.
it's a procedure the crew is running on their tablets.
Okay, so real quick, gotta just say, $100 donated to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital from Pink Coffee. Thank you so much. Insanely generous. That is beautiful. I love the aerospace community here for coming together. Amazing. So, yeah, thank you so much, Pink Coffee. Let's listen in, though. Launch escape system armed.
We need to have the crew leave, but depart via the crew access arm. That arm took a minute or so to retract. It can actually come back into the support position much faster than that. So there's a high-speed mode, but that high-speed mode requires that we be in the armed configuration so that it'll be enabled. So if that was needed, the crew could then leave the hatch, go down the arm, and depending upon the direction, they can take the elevators. The elevators are currently at level 255. When the ground team left the pad, they send the elevators back up. So if the crew needs them, they're right there. And of course, we have the slide wire basket system on 39A is another way. So there's several ways if the crew had to leave. But the good news is, coming up 40 minutes before launch, everything continues to go well, technically, on Falcon 9 and Dragon. And it looks like the weather has begun to cooperate now.
I love it. So thankful that weather's cooperating and that they're going into, so at T-minus 35 minutes will be prop load here.
Will be the start of propellant loading on Falcon 9. Once we get into that, then we're committed to the T0, even though there's still more time in the window and a third launch opportunity if we need it. We would not be able to take advantage of that if we get propellant going into the Falcon 9. Again, the views from 39A, the arm is retracted. You can't tell it, but launch escape system is armed on the Dragon spacecraft.
Hibbity Hay in our Discord asked if this Falcon 9 has flown before, and you can see in this view that it clearly has. You can tell how sooty it is, especially in the lower portion there. That's the RP-1 tank. You can tell just how dark it is. These boosters, when they come off the line, are bright white, just like the upper stage there. The second stage is still white. The middle part between the upper stage and the booster, that black band, that is always black because that is carbon composite. So that starts off black even from the factory, but then below that is normally all white, or at least from the factory is all white. And as soon as these things fly more than once, after the first flight, they get some soot, they get some marks on it from the flight, from reentry, from flying back in through its own plume. They end up getting quite sooty and quite dirty. And these days, having a flight-proven booster has actually become desirable. Believe it or not, new boosters are no longer like the thing that are requested for some of these missions. Now, high-end missions are actually wanting a low flight but flight-proven booster. And literally, I mean, it was only 2 or 3 years ago that the discounted boosters were the ones that had flown 2 or 3 times. And now the discounted boosters are the ones that have never flown before. And it makes sense. Would you want to fly on an airplane that's never, ever, ever flown before? Or would you want to fly in it after it's flown 4 or 5 times, Get all the kinks worked out. And that's actually the mantra. And what the data must be proving is that, hey, you know what? We're actually confident and we have a lot of data on these things that they perform really well after they've flown more than once, and we have all that collected data. So let's keep answering some questions and all that stuff. So from Christopher Carson Smith, my baby is currently wearing his everyday astronaut onesie. Amazing. Thank you for the support, and thank you for putting your baby in some awesome aerospace merchandise. That's really cool.
Propellant load in 5 seconds.
I believe that was Locke's tank will end. I missed the first part of it.
Yeah, we'll be hearing call-outs throughout the countdown up to the crew to let them know what's happening, both Falcon 9 and Dragon. And then we'll also hear call-outs on SM.
Yeah, and the core is keeping them updated so that they, there's going to be new sounds coming inside of the vehicle, and the core can keep them updated since they won't be able to see what's happening, but they might be able to hear it. So they'll be able to monitor, those familiar sounds or those expected sounds as the core is updating them with each milestone.
Now, our next major event, as we've mentioned, is the start of propellant loading onto the Falcon 9. We'll hear that starting at T-minus 35 minutes. We also may hear the call-out launch auto sequence has started. That is the ground computer program that controls the last 35 minutes. And we should also, as we mentioned, hear the launch director call out to the crew that propellant loading has begun. Propellant loading sequence on the Falcon 9 begins with loading fuel onto both the first and the second stages. That's the RP1 kerosene fuel that we use. We'll also begin with liquid oxygen loading onto the first stage. Now, the second stage fuel loading will finish up fairly quickly at about T-minus 20.5 minutes. And then 4 minutes after that, we'll begin loading liquid oxygen onto the second stage. But right now, T-minus 35 minutes, 30 seconds, everything continues to go well. We're waiting for the handover from the countdown master sequence to the launch automatic sequence to begin propellant loading. Once that begins, that'll commit us to a launch early this morning here at Pad 39A in Florida.
Yes, let's go.
We'll listen in now for the start of propellant loading.
Yeah, let's listen in.
The launch auto sequence has started.
And great call out there. We just heard that the launch auto sequence has begun. This means that propellant loading has begun on Falcon 9. Now we are T-minus 34 minutes and 45 seconds from liftoff. Dragon was loaded with its propellants about a couple weeks ago, just a few miles down the road at what we call Dragon Land. In order to fly, Dragon needs a fuel and an oxidizer. And for the fuel, we use monomethylhydrazine, or MMH, and nitrogen tetroxide, or NTO, for the oxidizer. Now, together, these propellants feed the Draco engines that maneuver Dragon on orbit, as well as the 8 Super Draco engines that would power the launch escape system in an abort scenario.
And again, now that fueling for Falcon 9 has started, that means the 8 Super Draco engines inside Dragon are ready, if needed, to launch the capsule away from the Falcon 9 rocket in an instant, should there be any kind of emergency associated with the rocket or the pad.
Now, some of you are very familiar with the vehicles on the launch pad today, but for those of you who aren't, no worries. We're about to make you instant experts. Now, on the left side of your screen...
Okay, so we've had this one before, so let's go back to a couple questions. I did want to point out, now that they are beginning fueling, either this thing is launching in 33 minutes or it scrubs for the day. Now that they've begun fueling, there is not the opportunity to reset for the third launch attempt in this launch window for this morning. So let's just keep that in mind, that we are in the countdown for a launch. And if it scrubs at all, if there's any problems, then it will not launch tonight. So just keep that in mind. It is still go. Hearing a lot of questions about a toilet situation. There is a small vacuum toilet, basically, on Dragon for these extended missions. Yeah, I think there's a small curtain for privacy, and I think it's just a very intimate situation with all 4 humans on board. Dragon is surprisingly bigger than it looks, but still having 4 people on board for 5 days is definitely going to be a very intimate experience, and you need to be comfortable with the rest of your crew. By the way, we're seeing a view right now of drone ship, which is just read the instructions, and it's downrange, a few hundred miles downrange. Let's see. This is from Stephen Porter. How do they manage if they have an itch or want to sneeze when visor is down? Is there anything inside the helmet to use to scratch the face or clean the visor? Yes, there's normally like a Velcro pad inside of the visor, so you can rub your nose up against the visor. And I swear I remember hearing that there's something even unique, specific to this new EVA suit but I can't recall. Ugh, it is too late. Let's see here. This is from Tactical Coffee Drinker. Hey, Tim, you went to the, I'm guessing it's supposed to be the Cape because O and P are next to each other. You went to the Cape as a kid. I have a love for vintage space, and I also love your usage of Apollo Air footage. I especially loved your Vulcan one. Well, thank you very much, Tactical Coffee Drinker. When I was a kid, I get this. This is a crazy story. I do remember when I was a kid, I was 5 or almost 5.5, 6 years old. Went to Disney World with my parents and my family. And I remember we went to Kennedy Space Center. It's one of my first memories. I remember, a handful of things about it. But one of the crazy things is we saw a space shuttle on the pad on our bus tour. And I looked, it was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, was looking through family photos and saw, just looking for those pictures of I wonder what mission, if we could figure out what mission that was. Come to find out, the mission that we saw on the pad was Hubble. So I actually saw Hubble Space Telescope inside of Space Shuttle when I was, 5 or 6 years old. And then my dad and I also watched it actually launch in the parking lot of our hotel. So I actually got to see Hubble launch. Of all random missions, catching Hubble is pretty spectacular. So I do love the Cape, and I do love those missions throughout history, and Hubble's an amazing one. So this is from Light for Japan Productions. Tim, you sound sleepy. Thanks for hanging there with us. I'm in Japan, so it's before dinner. I'm glad you guys are hanging out with me. I would be trying to watch this, but I would have set an alarm for this one, just woken up about T-minus 5 minutes and just caught the tail bit of the countdown. But for me, Central Time would normally be coming up on 4 a.m. I am currently on the West Coast, so it feels a little bit easier. However, I've only been here for 2 nights, so I'm not quite adjusted at all. So, yeah. This is from Rob Cheerful. Great coverage, Tim. Thank you. The best. Thank you so much to all the support from everyone. But again, I need to remind everyone, we've had 1, 2, 3 more anonymous tips, $20 tips. And again, these are not tips to me. These are donations to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Thank you so much to those, and Robert Norris for $20 and Will Evans for $20. I'm not sure which exact currency that is. And 10 euros from Mart Attacks, and John Depker with $20. Thank you, John. Again, this is all part of the support for the Polaris program, who it does fundraising with an ongoing partnership with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I'm going to leave you guys with this video quick while I take a quick break. I will be right back.
How can we run?
Listen in, and I'll be right back. T-minus 28 minutes.
Gravity, but also have a simulator that's powered, with hatches to get in and out of, so we don't have to submerge that in a pool.
We looked at a suspension system solution where we can set up a physics model that allows you to pressurize the suit, put on a harness, and then a hoist will lift a suited crew member up. And you can basically use one finger and you press down and your whole body will move up, just like in space.
It allowed us to really put into practice the different piece-by-piece steps that are necessary to complete this operation safely.
One aspect of our training has been scuba diving. The buoyancy allows us to kind of experience a different environment. The lack of communication is a challenge associated with scuba diving.
You rely on alternate forms of communication. You'll use different hand signals to communicate, like I'm okay, you're okay. So I would say scuba diving has a ton of great training lessons that are directly applicable to our spacewalk.
I have to say, I think the max fun here was the skydiving we did at the Air Force Academy. That was some of the best training ever.
When I dropped out of that airplane, sitting in the airplane as I was going up, I felt those nerves, all of that rush of emotions that comes with, recognizing that you are about to do a really high consequence operation.
And you're standing out, leaning into the wind, out of an aircraft, and then you just let go and you fall. It was incredible training. some of the most memorable training we've done.
For the centrifuge training, the purpose is to go through both a launch and a reentry as well as a launch escape mission profile in this human centrifuge that's spinning you around and imparting forces on your body that are similar to the ones that we will experience when we go through those operations actually in space.
When you're in space, you have to deal with the circumstances that you're dealt. Similar fashion is climbing a mountain. You're on the side of a mountain, it's taken days to get to where you're at, approaching the summit. You're dehydrated, you're hungry. You learn to manage those stressors. And those are all good preparation techniques in getting ready for space exploration.
We've had it all. We've had unbelievable, highs, and we've had lows. It's just been a great 2 years of growth. Some of the best times of my life.
Before the segment, I called it an extracurricular activity. My brain is clearly tired. It's extravehicular activity. And as we mentioned earlier, much of the training that the crew went through was to prepare them to perform that extravehicular activity, or an EVA. Because Dragon does not have an airlock, the entire cabin will be depressurized. So essentially, all 4 astronauts will be performing the EVA. Jared and Sarah will exit the spacecraft to perform their tasks, while Kid and Anna remain inside to conduct their experiments and act as the ears and eyes. The EVA will last about 2 hours from the time that the cabin air is vented to when it is repressurized again.
As they prepare for the EVA, the crew...
Stage 2 cryohelium load has started.
Good call-outs there. As they prepare for the EVA, the crew will go through a pre-breathing procedure, which will involve slowly dropping the atmospheric pressure of Dragon while increasing the concentration of oxygen in the air. This process is similar to what is known as a safety stop in the diving community. This will give their bodies plenty of time to acclimate to the difference in pressure ahead of the EVA.
SpaceX designed the EVA suits for the Polaris Dawn crew, and they'll wear it during the spacewalk. The EVA suits protect the crew inside the spacecraft while also allowing them to leave the spacecraft when needed.
Upgrades include new joint designs that remain soft until pressurized while maintaining mobility, improved thermal management, and an upgraded helmet with an exterior coating that acts like a sun visor, along with a camera and heads-up display that provides information on the status of the suit during the spacewalk.
Let's take a look at the making of the suits that our crew will be wearing during the first ever commercial EVA.
Okay, at this point we've seen this video a few times, so let's keep going. This is from Darth Vader, rest in peace. When New Glenn launches with people, do you think it'll use a 7-meter capsule or a more conventional capsule? What do I think a 7-meter crew capsule or crew vehicle would look like? I don't know. I could see it going both ways. I could see where they would taper it up to be, 5 meters, which would be more in line or typical with, that's more like Orion. But even 5 meters would be pretty darn big. 7 meters would be huge. I could see if it is a traditional, capsule design, 7 meters could be a massive vehicle, and that'd be really cool. I don't know. I don't know if I could see them trying to do something different. I could see them trying to do, something more like a small space plane or something, but just totally guessing. I don't know. I don't know what the crude New Glenn could look like if they do an integrated, if they do a fully reusable vehicle. There is the Jarvis program that looks similar to Stoke Space's upper stage, which is a regeneratively cooled heat shield with like an aerospike on the base of it. If they did something like that, the whole upper stage could be a crew capsule, which would be really cool. Similar to Starship, how Starship has an integrated, it is the upper stage and it's the crew vehicle. I could see New Glenn potentially moving in that direction too. This is from David, either Davey DVD Bergen or David VD Bergen. They would do the flaming end check. We have not yet done the pointy end up, flaming end down check. So let's wait until we have another good view of the rocket. And hopefully we can confirm that, because that is obviously extremely, extremely important. This is from Dougloa. or DeGlow. Hi Tim, love all your work. Love your videos about RFA and ESAR aerospace. I live next to them. Hope your work on the engine caused not the problem from RFA1. Go SpaceX, go Polaris Dawn. So for those unfamiliar, I toured RFA, which is Rocket Factory Augsburg in Augsburg, Germany, and also toured ISAR Aerospace in Munich, and visited both of them, and it was, I still think that's an awesome video. If you haven't watched that video, you need to watch it. But what's fun about it is I got to go to these two different companies, and frankly, I don't think you could have two companies with a more different approach to trying to develop a orbital vehicle. And so it was really fun to hear from the two companies just go back and forth. And I edited the video where you hear one company say one thing and then cut to the other video, the other tour, and it's like the exact opposite thing. But they're only 90 minutes apart. They're only roughly, 100 kilometers away from each other or something, and they're doing a similar thing but in a completely different way. So it's a really fascinating set of tours. Ooh, by the way, here we go. I can confirm by this footage here that the pointy end isn't. Don't know now. Lost visual contact. You have to have ocular assessment of the entire thing, or else we can't do it. Let's keep answering some questions here. We had a membership here from Christopher Sen. So thank you so much for your membership. I do want to remind everyone that all donations and everything, including we had an anonymous tip of $50 that I think I missed. So thank you so much to whoever that anonymous person is. But again, the super chats, all the donations go straight. It should say it on screen and everything that even as you do it, that it all goes straight through YouTube to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and YouTube then does not take any kind of cut. All of it goes 100% to St. Jude. So, speaking of, we had Pizik Spaith, who donated another $50 for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So, as you see, so thank you so much. That's amazing, and that's a big part of the partnership between the Polaris program, Jared Isaacman, and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is amazing, and it's so cool they still continue to raise awareness and raise funds for such a good cause. So happy to support them in that. So yeah, just a reminder that if you do donate, that I'll try to say something and thank you, but this is all for a bigger cause. So get your questions in. I'm not doing any super chat questions. So we'll just have a queue here, and I'm trying to kind of keep up with them here. Let me try to add a few more even for you guys. Let's see. Someone's saying, I can't donate for my country. Why is that? It's a YouTube thing, unfortunately. If you do want to donate and currently don't have a good way, the best way to do it is to go to polarisprogram.com and click on Our Cause, and there you will see a donation link for Polaris Dawn and for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I believe the URL directly to that is stjude.org/donate/polaris.html. But I think the best thing to do is just go to polarisprogram.com. So polarisprogram.com, and then click on Our Cause, and you can donate directly through there if your country does not allow for donations. But let me let's try and get a few more things going here. Okay, so this is another quick question is where did that go? Okay, Blue Dot, yeah, so we talked about why you can't donate from your country. Some countries just is a geo thing with YouTube, and maybe they don't have the correct agreements in place for all that kind of stuff. AV Scott and Flower, have you heard any plans or research from SpaceX or anyone into paving a square pad on the moon akin to a landing barge. One moment, I need to sneeze.
Loaded with propellants as we speak. That began at T-minus 35 minutes. The launch system is armed, and we have gotten the okay to go from the crew. They are ready to go to space.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We've got their new EVA suits on board with the crew. This will be the first time that we've ever flown these EVA spacesuits, which I think is...
LOX load has started.
Which I think is one of the most exciting parts about this mission. And we did get a good call that Stage 2 LOX liquid oxygen loading is now beginning on the vehicle.
Now, this mission will orbit Earth for about 5 days. And in addition to the first commercial spacewalk, it'll be the first time that we will be utilizing our newly designed Skywalker hardware, which I love the name. And it is a mobility aid that Sarah and Jared will use in their EVA suit testing during their EVA. So we are very much looking forward to the launch in just over 15 and a half minutes now. And everything so far looking good. We had much improved weather conditions when our first T0 occurred. Was 12:38. Wasn't so great. Here we are sometime later, and we're looking at a 20% favorability. So as you can see on your screen, like I said, about 15 minutes from the liftoff of Polaris Dawn. Lots of excitement building here in the building in Hawthorne, just outside of Mission Control. Now, I can only imagine what the crew is feeling as the clock counts down. Now, as we all wait together, let's hear from some of the crew of the Inspiration 4 mission as they reflect on what they were feeling just before their mission liftoff.
I gotta say, right now, launching, people always ask me if...
So I see a few misconceptions here that I wanted to bring up. Let's see here. Did that one... from Paul, where did that one go? Aha. This is Paul Ham says, give directly to St. Jude. YouTube takes at least 35% of all donations. Disgusting. No, that is not true. I used to think that. That's why the last time we did a fundraiser for Inspiration 4, which is actually the people that you see on screen right now, I didn't want people, I directed everyone directly to St. Jude. And that was through the Inspiration 4 website. I directed everyone that way. I didn't want people donating through YouTube because I didn't want them to take a cut. Come to find out, for fundraisers like this, they filter everything straight through. There is zero cut from YouTube. That has been confirmed by a few sources. You can read up on it. It is part of their, if it's a 501c3, they can just go straight through, and they don't touch a dime of it. So that is incorrect, Paul. If you donate here through YouTube, it does go straight to St. Jude. YouTube does not see a penny of it, as they shouldn't. This is a quick question from Josiah CT. You got your stream settings on the highest for their live stream? Yes. Unfortunately, they bumped it down to 720 because X was overloading and X was crashing. So I have it at the highest setting, 720p, and that's the best we got. This is from Kavita, asking, this is the Falcon 9 rocket, or stating, I just wanted to reiterate, yes, that this is the Falcon 9 rocket. And the, the Falcon 9 rocket is the most prolific rocket flying right now. It has flown humans on a dozen missions at this point. And this is exciting. This is in this particular Dragon capsule that they sit on top of the Dragon capsule, inside the Dragon capsule, which is on top of the Falcon 9 rocket. And the Dragon capsule, this particular one, is the same one that Jared flew with those three people, which is Chris, Cyan, and Haley from Inspiration 4. He flew with them for 3 days around the Earth on this exact Dragon capsule. So he knows it very well. Pretty awesome. So let's see. This is Cody saying, is this the first used Falcon 9 with people on board? I know NASA didn't like the idea of crewed flights with used boosters a while ago. No. It's become quite normal. In fact, Jared's first mission for Inspiration 4 was on a used booster. And so it's quite normal now to fly crew on used boosters. In fact, I think it's more normal to fly on used boosters. So I think it was actually only the first mission. Now that I think about it, Demo 2 was 1058, a new booster at the time. And I think Crew 1 already flew on a used booster. So NASA got over the used booster idea very, very quickly. This is a public service announcement from Sumatra. If you see a SpaceX YouTube channel, just keep this in mind. Any YouTube channel that says it's SpaceX is fake. There is one YouTube channel on YouTube that is SpaceX. They do not live stream anymore. All streams are straight through X or Twitter, because that is owned by Elon Musk. So he wants everyone to be watching on X. They do not do. Ooh, are these all the 0G? It was like a little. Hang on, we should probably watch this. This is cool.
Falcon flight reliability.
From the Falcon build reliability engineering team to Polaris Dawn. We're so excited for you on this Polaris Dawn mission. We're wishing you the best of luck from McGregor.
Thanks for allowing us the opportunity to do a lot of testing.
Thank you for flying Dragon.
Please remember to keep your hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the vehicle at all times.
May Falcon and Dragon propel you to unimaginable heights.
We know our engines will get you there safe.
Go fly higher than Dragon's ever flown before.
And hope you enjoy your internet in space.
Good luck. Safe travels and
go Polaris Dawn.
Go Polaris Dawn.
Godspeed Polaris Dawn.
Go Polaris Dawn.
That's cool.
We're waiting to hear Core talking to the crew, configure crew displays, and give them the farewell
Copy,
message.
Dragon. Enjoy the journey and go safely.
To our SpaceX family, thank you. Today is all of our mission. You are launching with us.
This is the dawn of a new future in space.
Coming up on T-minus 9 minutes and counting. Displays are configured for launch. We've heard from the crew. Core is giving them the ready to launch message. Now coming up here, as we launch, you're going to hear some call outs, possibly stage 1A or mode 1 alpha. These are abort modes that just let the crew know as we're flying what they should be prepared for in case they had to execute an emergency escape from the Falcon 9. Don't expect that, but they are trained, and that's when you hear 1A, that means they've lifted off. 1B you might hear, that'll come late in the ascent as we're throttling down the Merlins on the first stage. And then when we're on second stage, you'll hear 2A and eventually Shannon, which is a call out for Ireland that tells the crew that they can cross the North Atlantic. And then finally we get into orbit and everything gets disabled and Dragon will separate. But right now, coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, everything continues to go well.
At T-minus 7 seconds, we should hear the call out that stage 1 engine chill has started. At this point in time, when we hear that, we'll know that we're beginning to flow a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the first stage engines. This helps to basically pre-chill the engine hardware prior to the full flow of that super chilled liquid oxygen. This helps the ignition sequence and helps to avoid any thermal shock to the hardware. At this point in time, Falcon continuing to undergo its propellant loading operations. And standing by for the call out for that engine chill initiation.
Engine chill has started.
And great news there. As Kate mentioned, engine chill has begun. And we are loading propellants on Falcon 9's first and second stage. Second stage propellant loading for RP1 has completed. We're getting close to wrapping up propellant loading on stage 1. And while RP1 will be completed around the T-minus 6 minute mark, liquid oxygen loading will continue on both first and second stage as we get closer to the T0. So we should hear a call
Stage
out.
1 RP1 load is complete.
Perfect timing. Stage 1 RP1, or the fuel for the Falcon 9 vehicle, has completed on the first stage.
So I did want to take a quick moment and answer a few more questions here. Ace asking, are they leaning back in the Dragon or are they straight vertical? They are leaning back. So the seats in Dragon, when you ingress, when you get into the vehicle through the hatch, it's more or less sitting like a normal chair. And then as they, about, I think it's T-minus 90 minutes or so, the seats, it's more like the feet almost like swing up. And then they get closer to the screens that way, and they are in a safe launch position. So they're not quite fully on their back, but they're almost fully on their back. They're kind of at a little bit of an angle, but that does help disperse all the G loads against their entire body. So it's safer for launch and for reentry to be in this position, as opposed to sitting upright where your spine's aligned, and if you're compressing, it would compress your spine, and it's just not great. So you want to spread out those G forces throughout more of your surface area throughout your body. So good question. Another quick one, just to remind people, are they leaning, or are they wearing the EVA suits? Yes, they are. They are already in the EVA suits, and that's all they'll wear for this mission. Let's see. Oh, this is cool, from Darth Vader. When I was 16, I started watching your videos, and now I'm pursuing a degree in electrical engineering and I hope to work in spaceflight. Your videos were an integral part of my journey. That is amazing. Thank you so much, Darth Vader, for letting me know. Yeah, that is, I love to hear that. That's the ultimate compliment, and it means the world to me that you guys are watching along with me. And now we're going to see this strong back is retracting, by the way. You'll see that's the back portion of the vehicle, or the thing that's holding the vehicle up. You can see this tower kind of aligned to it. It'll begin to recline a little bit, and then at liftoff it reclines a lot more to prevent the plume from destroying all of the precious umbilicals and all the connections. But you can see now the claw is basically opening up on that strong back tower. We have had a few more donations, by the way. Whoa. Is that right? Hold on. That can't be right. There's $1,000 donation from an anonymous person to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Holy crap. Did you guys see that? And $100? And from, holy crap, I've been missing a lot of these. Man, holy crap, from Brian Cole and the Master, and Donald Holborn and Tony Arrow and a ton of anonymous people. But $1,000. Wait, two $1,000? No, only one $1,000. That is wild. And again, remember, all funds go straight. They don't touch me. They don't touch YouTube. They go straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So thank you so much for helping me support Polaris, support St. Jude. That is incredible. Guys, what the heck? Oh, that's amazing. Okay, we are T-minus 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Ignore my clock, by the way. I should just turn that off for now. You know what's going on. We'll look at the official clock. It's been off for a long time, and I don't have to control it because I'm in a hotel, so sorry. Amazing. Wow. Okay, let's listen in here. This one is on behalf of all of you watching. On behalf of the Polaris crew, on behalf of SpaceX, on behalf of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
There we go. Locks loading complete on second stage. All major propellant activities are complete. Dragon
is an auto idle.
Dragon's gone to auto idle. One of the states in its flight computer. We'll begin venting down the lines.
Gas closeouts are starting. Expect loud venting.
There we go. So the plume you see coming off of the strong back here, that's normal. As we come up on T-minus 1 minute, we'll hear Dragon computers in the countdown, Falcon 9 computers in the countdown, flight termination system armed.
They're going for it.
And then we'll hear the goes. So let's listen in to the last 66 seconds of the countdown.
FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Yes.
Send that, SpaceX.
Let's go.
T-minus 30 seconds.
I'm going to be so happy if this thing takes off. I cannot wait to see this spacewalk. Thanks again to all the donations. Another $1,000.
T-minus 15.
Straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. You are amazing.
10, 9,
Let's do this, guys. Let's do this.
7,
This is incredible.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And go Falcon. Go Polaris.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Yes.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
This is so good. I know
T-plus
these
35
people.
seconds into
This
the
is
Polaris
so
Dawn
weird.
mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9 to new heights.
Power and telemetry nominal.
And we're throttling down in
Stage 1
preparation
throttle down.
for max Q.
Maximum
Next
aerodynamic
call out.
pressure.
The vehicle supersonic.
Live
And
views
there on the left
ascent.
side, we've got the
Falcon
Polaris
9
Dawn
is
crew.
supersonic.
Thumbs up from the pilot on the left side there.
Max Q.
Scott Kid Poteet.
We're throttled
1
back
throttle
up to power.
1 Bravo.
And we heard the call out 1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
That just tells the crew what would happen should they need to initiate anything. But right now, everybody making nominal callouts on Falcon 9. Nice views from the ground camera and nice view from inside Dragon.
MVAC chill is underway.
The announcement lets us know we've begun the final chill of the second stage engine in preparation for its activity coming up at about T+, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Two minutes into flight. Everything continues to look good. We'll have, in half a minute, 3 major activities. Shutdown of the 9 Merlin 1D engines. Stage
Stage 1
separation.
throttle down.
And then ignition of the second stage engine. Throttle down, we're holding a constant acceleration now for the crew, just below 4 Gs. See, we're coming up 70 kilometers.
There's Miko.
Preparing for Miko.
There it is.
Main engine cut off.
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed. Copy, 2 Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
As you can tell by the cheers behind us and the views on your screen, the first stage booster now on its way to attempt landing on Just Read the Instructions. Second stage there on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see that the first stage has not yet reached its apogee. You can see the altitude there. Lots of thumbs up there, excuse me, from pilot Scott Kid Poteet. Now 3.5 minutes into the Polaris Dawn mission. First stage continuing to make its way up to its apogee. We'll see that altitude begin to slow down.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Great news there, indicating that the second stage trajectory is looking good.
This is so crazy.
Now the grid fins have deployed on the first stage. If we get first stage views, we might be able to see the Florida coast in the background. Oh, they're right there. Yeah, we sure can. Once again, our drone ship is attempting to land on, our booster is attempting to land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
Yeah, and Discord, chat and Discord was pointing out that we were seeing thumbs up from Scott Kid Poteet, the pilot of this mission, with despite 3.5 Gs. But you have to understand, Scott is an F-16 fighter pilot, and 3.5 Gs is absolutely nothing for this guy. And all of them, all 4 of them in here have trained extensively in fighter jets and have experienced extremely high G environments. So this is a walk in the park for them, which is half the reason why you do fighter jet training, so that when you get to these environments of 3-4 Gs, no big deal.
And that'll be around T plus 9 minutes. That one will be just a single engine burn. And that will bring the booster down for a soft landing on our drone ship. Around the same time as that, we expect to see Dragon be injected into orbit. Everything continuing to look good for second stage there on the right-hand side of your screen. Beautiful glow with that MVAC engine nozzle.
This has got to be the most.
We can see the crew settling
Dragon,
quite.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
I think this is by far the most internal views we've seen during a launch.
Comfortable there at T plus 6 minutes. They're at about 4 Gs. And everything looks good. First stage continuing its descent back down to planet Earth.
Yeah, you see on the left side, you can see 2 things that are telling that the booster is re-entering. Number one is its altitude is decreasing. So despite when it separates from the second stage, the booster is still ascending. It's still following its ballistic trajectory. So it still is increasing in altitude and then falls because it doesn't just let go right when it's at the peak of its altitude. It wants to mostly inject a lot of velocity. So it still has a lot of inertia going upward, and basically, goes up and falls back down. You can see its altitude is decreasing on the left. On the right, that is the second stage. The right-hand side of the screen shows the second stage numbers. Speed is increasing, altitude is increasing, which makes sense for this mission profile.
2 burns that the first stage will perform. Designed to help reduce the amount of drag experienced by the first stage.
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
So yeah, they turned off second stage
All right,
flight termination
standing by
system.
for entry burn begin on the first stage, there on the left-hand side of your screen.
Flying into daylight, you can see daylight on the horizon there on the left.
And right on time, you can see on your left-hand screen that the entry burn has begun. There's 3 engines lit on that first stage vehicle. And this is about a 29-second burn and helps slow the vehicle down as it's re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. There you can see that the engines have now shut down on that first stage. That concludes the entry burn. And the cool part about this, with the Stage 1 vehicle returning back to Earth, is we get to fully utilize the atmosphere. The atmosphere actually...
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
The atmosphere actually scrubs about 70% of the velocity on the vehicle. So we use that entry burn to help slow the vehicle down. Then we utilize the atmosphere and the drag from the atmosphere to slow the vehicle down. And then we do have one single burn for the landing burn.
Copy, Shannon.
And next up will be SECO 1. And that is second stage engine cutoff 1, and that'll be on the second stage. That MVAC engine on your right-hand screen will shut down and allow the vehicle with Dragon attached to coast.
MVAC shut down.
And there's that
There it
shutdown. And the landing burn on the first stage should be starting up here momentarily.
There we go.
And there it is. Landing burn has begun for...
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Dragon SpaceX launch escape system disarmed.
Copy that, SpaceX, and we show the scene.
And a lot of events happening right there, but you can see that the Stage 1 vehicle has touched down. Just read the instructions. A very excited crowd there. Here in Hawthorne, we've also confirmed MVAC engine shutdown and orbital insertion of the second stage with the crew on board.
Yeah, honestly, a pretty impressive crowd for 2:30 in the morning here. We can see the crew enjoying their first taste of microgravity there on the left-hand side of your screen.
With the 0G indicator
Now
over
that
there.
the MVAC engine has shut down, they are able to just kind of float free. We might catch a glimpse of the 0G indicator. Can't quite tell if they've...
Yeah, you can see it there.
Oh, it looks like
Right
it's in the upper right-hand corner. It'll come back into view here.
There.
Once again, they will keep their visors on until given the okay by core here on the ground. At this point in time, the Dragon and the Dragon trunk remain attached to the second stage. Second stage is basically safing itself in preparation for the separation from the Dragon trunk. Of course, the trunk will remain attached to the Dragon capsule all the way up until the point in which we begin re-entry operations. The trunk is what will help provide power to the Dragon capsule while it is on orbit using its solar arrays. Looks like our first clear view of planet Earth there, our first of many for this mission.
This thing's going to go higher than we've ever seen
And
a
the
Dragon
next
capsule.
event coming up will be the separation of the Dragon from the second stage.
So we'll see this. This is looking up.
I believe this view here is, yep, it's of the trunk. We can see it separating from the second stage. A gorgeous view.
Wow.
We can see that Polaris
Dragon
Dawn.
separation confirmed.
And copy that, SpaceX, and show the scene.
Amazing.
Polaris Dawn flying free into the sunrise.
Perfect.
We're now at T plus 13 minutes and 5 seconds into the mission.
This one's surreal for me, guys. I've spent a decent amount of time with this crew, and knowing that they're sitting right there.
Journey not just for yourselves, but for all of humanity. Each of you has trained tirelessly and prepared rigorously for this moment. Some will reach higher into space than ever before. As you gaze towards the North Star, remember that your courage lights the path for future explorers. We trust in your skills, your bravery, and your teamwork to carry out the mission that lies ahead. Know that the entire team back here is with you every step, watching, supporting, and cheering you on as you walk into space. We are sending you hugs from the ground. Godspeed, Polaris Dawn crew. May you make history and come home safely. Now words from our CE.
Dragon, CE, welcome to orbit. The Falcon team is honored to have helped you start your incredible journey. We hope you enjoyed the ride. The whole SpaceX family is looking up to you. Godspeed and good luck.
LD, CE, message received. We appreciate the kind words. We wouldn't be on this journey without all 14,000 of you back at SpaceX and everyone else cheering us on. We appreciate it, and we're going to get to work now.
Some really nice words there from our tonight's launch director, Frank Messina, who, fun fact, was also the launch director on Inspiration 4, as well as chief engineer for this mission, Jared Metter. Really nice to see some endearing, or hear some endearing words up to the crew.
Well, and with that, the Polaris Dawn crew, they're now in orbit. T plus 15 minutes, and they are scheduled to spend up to the next 5 days in space.
Incredible.
We heard that tone for a minute. We thought we might hear from the crew, but they're going to spend the next 5 days in space before splashing down off the coast of Florida.
The Polaris Dawn crew is the Polaris Dawn mission is the first mission in the Polaris program that will demonstrate new technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately culminate in a flight of SpaceX's Starship with humans on board. All of this while continuing to raise funds and awareness for important causes here on Earth. You can learn more about the Polaris Dawn program and the Polaris program at polarisprogram.com.
This mission will fly higher than any Dragon mission to date, attempting to reach the highest Earth orbit ever flown for a crewed spacecraft, breaking the record set by Gemini 11 half a century ago. And there it looks like we can see some nose cone separation action happening.
Cool.
Now, the Polaris Dawn crew will also be the first to test the Starlink laser-based communications in space.
Over the course of the mission, we'll be checking in periodically with the crew. Next up, Dragon will initiate a 2-day pre-breathe process to prepare the crew for their upcoming spacewalk, and that'll be this Thursday, September 12th.
Dragon SpaceX nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts, and nose cone open is in progress.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here, guys. It is late for me. I need to say another huge thank you to all of you who donated to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Absolutely amazing. Again, remember that anything that from like Andres and Mark and Many Anonymous and Dave Mueller and Farming 70 and Randy Pinball and Renwick Customer and Connor Lansdale, Josh Phillips, if you donate here through YouTube, I don't see a penny of it. YouTube doesn't see a penny of it. The government doesn't see a penny of it. It goes straight to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So thank you so much. Ooh, they're tuning out too, so perfect time. But huge congratulations to SpaceX, to the crew of Polaris Dawn. I mean, come on. It doesn't get better than that. This is a mission that you will want to continue to stay tuned to. They'll be doing the EVA here in a couple days. Yeah, I think on Thursday basically is when the EVA will be happening. It's just so exciting. Like I said, I started to kind of get very reflective here from it because I have spent time with these crew. I've flown, done 2 fighter jet opportunities, one with the pilot of this mission, Scott Kidd-Poteet, and one with Jared Isaacman. Flown in fighter jets with these guys and spent time around them and the crew and Sarah and Anna. and amazing people. It is really weird to sit here and realize that they are now out in space and they're going to be flying higher than any crew has flown since the Gemini program in an orbit around the Earth. Now, of course, Apollo flew higher than that because it flew to the moon, but technically it left Earth orbit to do that. So this is, but still, I mean, this is huge. This is going to be the first commercial EVA in history. What an incredible mission, and it's just getting started. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching with me. Stay tuned. There's going to be some cool stuff happening with this mission, like I said, and with the channel, and hopefully soon we come up on Flight 5 of Starship. And yeah, sorry that I'm doing this from a hotel room in California as opposed to my studio. And thank you for putting up with whatever crap quality this ended up being, but I appreciate you watching with me. And for all of you, again, that donated to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So stay tuned. Again, even if you can't donate here via YouTube, you can go to polarisprogram.com, click on Our Cause, and you can donate directly through there as well. That also makes a big difference. So thank you all so much. Have a fantastic night, and stay tuned for so much more from this program and for myself. All right, thank you guys. I love you guys. Take it easy. Have a fantastic night. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Goodbye, everybody.